Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Unite Mathcast, an insight into the objective and subjective mathematics of Pokemon Unite. Before we begin, this podcast is sponsored by UniteDB, the foremost authority on the mathematics and formulas hidden within Pokemon Unite, but more on them later. Today on the Mathcast, we have a guest, Circa, the mind and hands behind UniteDB.
Hello.
And of course, me, MathGeek. Hi. We at the Mathcord believe seeing the same image through different perspectives allow us to see a more complete picture of the truth. So I brought on Circa to talk a little bit about Unite today. But today's a bit of a special episode. We're celebrating the 10th Mathcast episode, and it's the first of April, so we got to do something a little silly. And on top of that, we also have 10,000 members in the Mathcord. So I figured this is as good a time as any to say an episode that's the history of the Mathcord, from A to Z, from the moment the day that it opened to where we are today.
And UniteDB is officially 2 years old now.
Yeah, it's not officially 2 years old.
Yep, I launched it in March.
You launched it in March?
Yeah.
So before the game came out.
Yeah, I had access to the Canadian beta and then the Japanese stress test, and I got all of the stuff ready for the site to go live then.
That's interesting. I didn't know that was how old it was, because our affiliation with it, actually, we'll be talking about the affiliation with it, but that was several months later. So
Yep.
UniteDB has existed for quite a long while, even though it as a entity wasn't it existed for quite a long while. That's cool. 2 whole years. Mathcord is approaching that marker. I think we were started in July 21st, 2021. Seems correct to me. So yeah. Circa, do you want to give a little bit of history onto UniteDB of what you did before you joined the Mathcord?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I got in the Canadian beta and then the Japanese stress test. I got, to answer Chico Evie's question, I got a lot of the early assets from the Japanese stress test because it was on phones, so I was able to get some from there. And then I actually met another developer who was running, he ended up rebranding it to Unite Cafe. His name was Yefrum. I probably didn't pronounce that right, but he ended up giving me a lot of the early assets as well that I didn't have. I think Zera Aura was one that for some reason I couldn't get.
Nice.
But yeah, I started with just all in-game info on all the mons, all the items, and then everybody's favorite part of the site, the tier list. So those were the 3 navigation items on the site, and now it's grown into this behemoth that I have a hard time keeping up with.
It's pretty funny because even though we have a lot of the mathematics and stuff, and we have the whole Mathcord power behind everything, the tier list is still the most popular page on the site, right?
Yeah, by a large margin. If you add up all of the individual Pokemon pages, then they would rival it, but people love their tier list. It's the highest visited page, and people love to hate it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, is that looking when you pull up the tier list like it is today and saying, oh man, Zero Aura's in D tier, there's gonna have somebody who comes up from great tier and says, hey, I climbed myself out of beginner with Zero Aura.
Yeah, I remember the first tier list I put out, I had Garchomp, I believe, at C, and I had so many Garchomp lovers tell me that he was S tier.
Yeah, it's very funny because so there's this idea in terms of MOBAs where you can play what you like. And that's always going to be true. If you play what you like and you are good at it, you are going to be, somebody who's a good Zero Aura is going to be better than somebody who's a bad Dodrio, for example. That's not going to be true with Comfy, because Comfy's brain dead easy. But, if you're talking about, some of the harder to play, heroes, if you're good enough at a Pokemon, you can probably still make your way fairly easily into decent up high masters. That doesn't make it the correct thing to do, though, especially when you're talking about the higher, ranked things. Because being that good at a better Mon means you will have even more success.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so without further ado, I think we can pivot directly into the pre-Mathcord days and what created the Mathcord and why we are as we are today. So I first heard about Pokemon Unite and the beta and such a couple months before it ended up coming out. I was really interested and I wanted to play it. Unfortunately, I did not get into the Canadian beta and it crushed me. So I really wanted to join. So I was really, really watching and excited for when day one came out. And I played day one and played constantly for the first couple days with some of my friends. And then I said, okay, now that I've played quite a bit, I now know how the game, fits in terms of like MOBAs and how it works and all the little minutia. What I want to do now is I want to learn the intricacies. I'm going to go pull up the official Nintendo website that has all the little stats of the mons. I can go look up what their abilities are and get an idea of how things work with each other. And I looked around for a while and realized, what the shit? None of that exists anywhere. Nobody has any of those values. Why? Why do those values not exist? Wait. Why do they exist? Nothing? Can I not find any of these values anywhere? And I spent a good while looking, and nobody had those values anywhere. The closest to anything that anybody had was Cerebi, where Cerebi had no stats at the time, but they just had how much damage an ability did at level 15 to the training dummy. And that was the only stats they had in the beginning days. They developed more of them soon, but this is like day 1, day 2. Nothing else existed. So I started seeing posts on Reddit saying, hey, how does defenses work? Are defenses any good? And I said, you know what? I'm going to start by solving that. And once I've solved defenses, then we can move into any of the other things afterwards.
Legendary.
Yeah, exactly. I want to start by solving this problem that a lot of people had. And a lot of people had this question and wanted to help me with it. I ended up getting a handful of people to help me along with it. You guys probably wouldn't know any of them anymore because I believe none of them are in the Discord anymore. But there was like myself, Soul Train, who was a very helpful mind with regards to all of these problems. Wayne was a very early contributor. There was Toonstar, Louise. All these people were very helpful to creating the original Mathcord and the original discoveries. But before the Mathcord itself existed, we were just like a small little group chat. We were just chatting in DMs and chatting on the Reddit cord before eventually I realized something. I noticed that against wild enemies, Charizard's Fire Punch would always do 1,000 damage. So I thought, that's a really convenient thing I can use when I'm trying to measure how many defenses people have. So what I did is I would then pull up in the practice tool. I would go pull up everybody's defenses, because it would just list the defenses that people had there. So you could get everybody's defenses and calculate the defenses. And I started to then use Charizard's Fire Punch at every single defense value. I went from like 52 up to several hundreds. And I went and manually got Charizard's hit values at every single one of those values. And it took basically like 15 or 16 hours of me hitting away at this and slowly grinding away until I had all these values. And once I did, I realized an interesting pattern. Wait a moment, why do these values increase in this way? Basically, the amount of damage I did would increase by 1 for 3 defensive points, and then increase by 1 for 2 defensive points. Increase by 1 for 3, then 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 2. And I calculated it all and realized this is a pattern, and it's consistent and easy to figure out. Because of this, I was able to take this and piece it together into a grouped function, and then I undid the 3 then 2 pattern until I realized it's just like a League of Legends kind of thing, where you have 100 plus defenses divided by 100. Except that for Unite's case, their break-off value for 50% was 600. And when I figured that out, I screamed it to the world and said, here we go, I figured it out, it's 600, here's the answer. Except I didn't actually do that. At the time, there was a small issue with this discovery. I didn't believe it was 600 at the time. I thought it was 1,500, because everything mathed out nicely. And everything worked exactly as I'd hoped. But there's a catch, and we'll get to that later. For now, I had this discovery, and everybody else verified it as being true. Everybody went into the practice tool, they all verified against bots, and it was true, it worked. MathGeek has solved the defense formula. And as such, I then started to realize I can create a Discord and get people in here for more research. So I did. I made a Discord, I pulled in Soul Train, I pulled in the handful of other people who'd helped us, and a couple people started to join. Over the course of the next month, we would have about 100 users, which was what I was expecting. I thought I'd get a handful of people together and we would start to be able to do little research, and it was mostly nerds who wanted to get all this little stuff down. So from there, what was our next thing to work on? We've now solved defenses. We didn't actually, but we thought we did. What do we do now? And we looked at all of the stats that everybody had. At this point, Cerebi had all of the stats for all the Pokemon. They had all the attack values at every level. They had all the defense values at every level. They had HP values at every level. So what else are we able to do? Well, we could start working on figuring out how abilities work. But then we realized they're missing special attack on the attackers. Because on the physical attackers. Because they figured out special attack on all the special attackers. And they figured out the attack on all the attackers, but they didn't have special attack values on all the physical attackers. And the special attack values they had on the special attackers weren't all correct either. They were different and weird and funky, and I think that's something we needed to fix. Special attack. People don't know how special attack works. How can we figure that out? Is there something that we can objectively say with 100% certainty, yes, we know, we can figure out special attack from? We didn't have any other references. We didn't have any other abilities that had flat values for us to work off of. However, we had one thing by our side. Shell Bell. So, Shell Bell, for those who aren't aware, which I think you've been playing Unite for a while, you should know this by now.
Here comes another Math Geek big brain moment.
Yes, exactly. It recovers 45 HP plus 35% of your special attack HP whenever you land a move. And I realized, at the time, Shell Bell probably heals off special attack. We didn't actually know this at the time. Like, we knew it was special attack because it had special attack in the in the growth, but we didn't actually know how much it scaled off of it. So we said, I bet if we could figure out how special attack, how Shell Bell works, then we'd be able to always figure out the special attack from any Pokemon. So we pulled up Gardevoir level 15 and used Shell Bell. It was a value. And we said, okay, we're going to take the exact same thing, but we're going to use items that boost special attack. And we gave the score item, the SPA, the special attack specs, the ones that give 120 extra special attack when you max them out. And we did it again, and we realized we've gained a little bit of healing. And from there, we were able to reverse engineer and piece together smaller values until we found the exact amount of HP that Shell Bell healed. 45, 60, 75, 35, 40, 45% special attack. And from there we realized, oh my lord, we can do this on any Mon. Do physical attackers have special attack? So what I did is I went and pulled up Lucario and attached Shell Bell to him. And sure enough, he healed a little bit. And it wasn't 45. It was a slightly higher than 45 number. So I wrote it down. And then I did it again with the next level, and the next level, and the next level, and all the values then. And I did it backwards and realized, okay, 35 and 40% aren't actually enough for me to be able to get the exact value. Unfortunately, I've got a range of 2 to 3 for all these things. But they're close enough that I now have a better range to work with. So I did that. I then equipped special attack items onto these bonds to give them weird, funky special attack values to see, well, if it was this value, then we would have this value at this level, and so on and so forth. And over the next month or so, a little bit less than, probably like the next week or so, actually, we had almost all the special attack values for all the Mons, including the physical attackers. However, we also noticed something interesting. This is a very minor point, but I realized how... oh, yes, this is incredibly tedious. This was a one recurring pattern you're going to find out with the the early Mathcord and how we did a lot of the things here it was just tons of tedium. A lot of tedium for us to be able to get these values. It took me 16 hours of effort for me to be able to piece together the defenses. It took like a week of us just going through every single Pokemon at every single level at various different special attack points to be able to figure out how much attack Shell Bell gave, or how much special attack they had given Shell Bell's healing. Took quite a long while, a lot of tedium. But we noticed something else.
I remember all of that, unfortunately.
There was one thing you might remember as well, Circa. Do you remember us catching that there was one Mon who had an incorrect attack value?
I'm drawing a blank here.
So, at this time, we made a realization. Holy shit. Cerebee's wrong. Cerebee made an assumption, and that assumption is incorrect. Their assumption was that every single Mon would deal 100% of their attack on their basic. Not their boosted attack, on their basic. Now, at the time, that was almost true. There was one exception, and it was a very, very subtle exception. Charizard.
Wasn't it? It wasn't Wigglytuff with the...
No.
Okay.
It wasn't. I don't think Wigglytuff was released at that point. Wigglytuff wasn't on release.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But it was Charizard. Because if Charizard had, let's say, for example, 201 attack, what it would do is it would say, well, I'm going to attack 4 times, and I'm going to take a quarter of your attack every level. So, or every time that it does it, because it's a 4-part attack. Charizard's basic attack bellows 4 times, and it does a quarter of its full attack every time it ticks. But if it has 201 attack, that means it does 50, 50, 50, 50. Cerebi will write that down as 200, not 201, because they just assumed it was an exact quarter and all the values are divisible by 4. That was wrong. It was an incorrect assumption. And as such, we needed to figure out the correct answer for that. So we, from then, started giving Charizard small values and increments of attack, and tested like all the possible increments. Because if they said he was 200, we realized the answer is anywhere between 200 and 203. So we need to slowly piece apart every single level manually. There was no data mining at this point. There was nothing for us to be able to fetch any like internal values. This was all experimental information by us manually going through and increasing his attack by a modulus of 1, by a modulus of 2, by a modulus of 3, or by 1 mod 4, by 2 mod 4, by 3 mod 4, just so we could go check the exact
I remember putting
values.
different level items on to keep attack at a certain number at each level, so we could see that there was a level difference.
And then we would go and write down the values we had until eventually we got the exact numbers for Charizard. And it was at that point that we realized the stats that people have been using aren't correct. We need to create a compendium ourselves that would fix this. And so yeah, we started working with Circa. Circa hopped in after the whole defense thing was discovered, and has been a great ally with us for quite a long while.
Yeah, I think I saw your post on Reddit about solving the defense formula, and I immediately joined and started helping where I could. But I don't have a big brain like Math Geek, so I just did the data gathering that I could get.
But the data gathering was incredibly helpful. There was a lot of tedium that needed to go on in order for us to reach anywhere we are. Notably, when I was looking through the old archives, we're still in the first 100 pages, by the way, of the Mathcord history. The Mathcord history has like 31,000 pages, but we're in the first 100 pages worth of content. There's a lot of stuff to go through. But one post I found when I was looking through the first 100 pages was one of our early contributors, Louise, dipping her toe into one of the most dangerous questions, a question that we've only solved recently. Cerebi has movement speed stats for level 1 because they were able to data mine those. I wonder, does it stay the same when Mons level up? Subjectively, Ninetales feels way slower than Lucario, but they have the same speed stat on Cerebi. That was a spark of the flame that, oh no, oh shit. we don't know how to do movement speed, and that was going to plague us for quite a long time.
There was a lot of oh shits though.
Yeah,
To be fair.
there was a lot of oh shits in this time. So yeah, we at this point we now needed to explore movement speed. We need to explore attack speed, which is a whole thing. We need to explore how moves did damage, and we spent a bit of time toiling through and trying to figure out how the heck moves did damage, and we didn't figure that out. We had no idea how. The values didn't make sense. We were under the impression that it was going to be done intelligently, that it was going to be a percentage of your stats plus a flat amount, because that would be the smart way to do it. Why would they do it any other way? And the answer is because it's Timmy. Everybody post Timmy Googly in the Mathcord stage chat. Because what they did, and what I realized, was once we had... I think I did this on Snorlax Tackle. I was like, we have Snorlax's attack at this level, and if I increase his attack, it increases the amount of damage it does. But it doesn't make sense, and I can't figure out a very consistent percentage when I look at other levels. So I said, screw it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take his attack stat, and I'm going to make it the same at 2 different levels. So I said at level 5 and level 7, I'm going to make his attack the exact same value by boosting up his level 5 value to be the same as it would be at level 7 without items. And then there was a difference. There was a difference between them, which told me it wasn't just the percentage and the base. The answer was its level. There was an extra third variable that cared about its level and increased the amount it was by. And it was constant. I removed that value based on the number of levels for everything, and everything fell into place. Oh man, you have no idea how great I felt. That
Symphony started playing out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Angels parted the sky. It was just a beautiful moment.
Divine trumpets parted the clouds. Oh man, it was a real day. Let me. I want to quote something I actually said when I figured this out. Quote, it was, "So I measured Snorlax's body slam at 3 different levels, all at the same attack, using the same ability, and got 3 different values. It could just be a flat increase of 17 per level." And then a message later, "It might be a flat 17 per level." Then the next message, "Fuck, that 17 per level corrects it." And once I figured it out, boom. Everything from there was a renaissance. I have solved the equation. I figured it out. And because of that, I got to name it. Cool, what am I going to name it? Well, you have a ratio, you have a base, and then there is something to do with the level. But I didn't know what to call that. Like, you don't call it like, oh, the ratio is its own like name for its like, for the percent number of ability you use. So I didn't just want to call it the level, because it's not level, it's actually like multiplied by the level. So I thought of a name and said, well, this was a number that we continually said it is sliding the values by. It's sliding our values off. So we called that a slider. And we said, there we go, we're done. It is the ratio, slider, and base. RSB.
I remember the debate that we had on whether to use level -1.
That happened like quite a lot later, but you're right, because we realized when the first actual data mines came out, which was like 3 or 4 months later, that the values we had on UniteDB didn't match the data mines. The reason being was in-game, they don't use a ratio times your times whatever, and a value times your level, and a base. What they do is they use a ratio times whatever ability, and then they say every time you level up, it increases the value by that, by the slider, and then the base, which is a very key difference, because it means that at level 1, you don't have any slider bonuses. It's very, very subtle. What we had wrong is that our base corrected for that. So if it was like a slider of 7 and a base of 380, the actual value was 387 with a slider being 7, and because it was off by 1. So we had this big debate, and we said, are we going to use what the internals of the game use, or are we going to use what's more intuitive and more accessible for the average person? Are we going to say you take your level and multiply it by the slider? Or are we going to say we're going to do what the game internally says, even if it makes it more obtuse for people to understand?
That
And
was a hot debate. It lasted a while.
it lasted like a month. And I was vehemently, very strongly on the side of making it more accessible. I knew I didn't care what was inside the game. I cared that we are creating a resource that people are using that's intelligent and that's helpful for people to understand the game. And it's easier to say multiply by your level instead of this stupid level -1 offset every time you level up does this thing. I felt that was just so much more obtuse and it made things awkward and inconvenient. And I was right. That is true. But
For what it's worth, I agree.
yes, and me and Circa, who I joke about them, me being a dictator of this server because I own the server and I make a lot of the big executive decisions. But I was feeling very strongly about this, and I wanted to strong arm it at the time. And I won't even lie, I really wanted to strong arm it because it's like this is the thing that I just know is true, and I feel it is just so passionately wrong to do otherwise. But I said, I am going to leave it up to my trusted contributors at the time to make the decision. Fuck
Yeah,
off,
and I
Pink.
had to vote. I had to vote the opposite way just because I knew that data miners were gonna get stuff out to the public, and then it would just make a headache for us to have to explain why we're
So
different.
this poll that we decided to decide ultimately was August 26, 2021. I made the announcement. I'm looking in the old archive right now. We have two formulas we can use to determine damage. Here are the two options we're looking at. Ratio attack plus slider times level plus base, or ratio attack plus slider level -1 plus base. The benefits of one, it's clean, simple to use, allows for easy mental math to evaluate in different circumstances, accessible. Benefits of two is literally used within the game. Matches data mined numbers, meaning less effort to harvest RSBs in the future, and we have a closer to game parity alignment. If you think we should stick with RSB and strive for simplicity, tap the 1. If you think that we should move to L-1 format and strive for game parity, tap the 2 emote. So I was hoping the vote was going to be kind of close so I can say, fuck it, I'm going to steamroll this and say, it's close enough anyways, I'm going to do it this way, whatever. But the vote wasn't close at all. It was 16-4 in favor of game parity. And that includes some of the names who are still around today, like Circa, like Lazarin, Ven, but based almost every contributor said to change it to level -1. The only people who didn't was one of the advisors, Renoga, who didn't do a lot of the little data mining things. They're much more of a public face person. Then Mittens, who is a very respected developer who helped us with a lot of our details, but also wasn't very math oriented. And Mao, who is the only other person who was quite math oriented in the vote who said one. Everybody else, every other person in the entire contributor channel, all said we should go for the level -1 version. And at that point, even though I disagreed very, very strongly, I had to concede. Everybody else was against me, and I'm not going to oppose my entire contributorship for that. And I still feel it was the wrong choice to this day, and I will still say I think we should have just done times level. But there was plenty of arguments for why that wasn't the case, and I have ultimately let it go. Although I'll still, I get to use this platform as one last little, I think I'm right, screw you guys, we should have done it the easier way.
Don't
But,
let him lie to you. He stays up at night thinking about that
Oh,
debate.
God, every night. It's been almost 2 years. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that was a thing that I had forgotten about, but you're right, that was a very, very heated conversation, and one of the policies I try to keep with the contributors and with advisors in general is I am okay with us being very mean to each other. Like, of course, I don't want it to be mean. Like, I would like people to be kind in general, but I also recognize like there are going to be conversations where we are going to be heated, where we are going to be angry, where we're going to be yelling at each other. And I am okay with that as long as they happen in private and as long as we forgive each other afterwards. Because it means people can be passionate and can fight for what they believe in. And I didn't want the contributors to feel like their opinions weren't going to be heard. So I want people to say their opinions and be heard in these channels. And this debate was basically what sparked that. To say, I want people to be mad, and I want people to be angry and make this big thing, and all the debates that can come through. And that's why the poll happened, because it was basically everybody's against you, Math Geek. You should do a poll, and we will all play our side. And that's what kind of sparked the whole, we are going to have this internal debate. And I made the announcement that says, we're pleased to announce to you that we're doing this now because of the way it's internal. But God, it hurt me to do at the time. Because, everybody's united.
Takes a big person.
It's Unite DB. We are all united together. Even if you disagree with something, if our entire the contributorship agrees with it, that is the Mathcord's position. And I am not the Mathcord. I am the person who owns the Mathcord, but that does not mean that everything that my opinions are going to be the Mathcord's opinions. So I have to poise it that way. Yeah, that was
fun times.
That was a fun time when we figured out how RSPs work. But once we had that, we started building all of these RSPs together. And this poll happened right at the end of August, a couple days before we formally posted all these RSPs on UniteDB. Basically, we built together all of these RSPs over the course of an entire month. All of August was just spent grinding and getting every single value for every single mon. There's only like 20 mons at the time. We are like 50-something now, but with the 20 mons we had at the time, that was still like a lot of mons.
We had 20, and we didn't have many contributors, and it was a lot of us just spending hours a day gathering data.
By the end, we did have like 20 contributors. By the end of that, but we only started with like 11 or 12. So that's a lot of people that we needed to have in order to be able to get these values there on time. And we just didn't have them. So people kept coming in, hearing about our project and seeing the releases that we had, and we started slowly growing our channel. And by the end of August, we had a group of about 20 contributors and about 450 members in the server, which was a significant growth. We really did catapult quite a lot from there. But yeah, so
respectable numbers.
From defenses and special attack values and with with RSBs, that kind of gave UniteDB and Mathcord the cred to say, we are now a force to be reckoned with. We now know what we're talking about. We know the math. We are the arbiters of mathematics of this game. And that was the beginning of when we started recognizing things were working. However, there's one thing I forgot to mention, or rather neglected to mention. It happened right at the very beginning. About a week after the game was released, people started realizing that scope lens didn't work. I'm sure you remember that, Circa, right? That people was scope lens just doesn't do anything. There's no passive on scope lens.
Yeah.
And we're what do you mean there's no passive on scope lens? It says here it does extra damage. No, it doesn't. It just does not work. And we didn't know why. It didn't make sense. And we spent a lot of time investigating that. And eventually, we did figure it out. This took a while to figure out, though. And we did announce it when we figured it out. And so much so that Spraggles, who ended up being a very close friend of the Mathcord, made a video related to it. Our first collaboration with Spraggles was, the scope lens isn't broken, here's how it works and why. And by pure Timmy Googly logic that I still don't understand, for some reason the position of items when you held them is what matters. For some godforsaken reason, when you had scope lens after a muscle band, scope lens didn't work. If you had scope lens before muscle band, it worked perfectly. But for some reason in the other war, it just did not make sense.
Timmy Googlies.
Yeah, spam Timmy Googlies again. Why? Why is that? That just does not make sense. It just doesn't, it's by far the stupidest bug they've had so far. Because why would the order ever matter?
Yeah, that is probably the weirdest bug that they've ever had.
Yeah, it was our first
They've
foray
had some
into
weird
bug hunting
ones,
at the
but
time.
that is definitely, that one takes the cake.
definitely. It was our first real foray into bug hunting, which is like now a common theme of the Mathcord. This bug's not true anymore. No. This was patched after like a month or two, but it was true for like 2 months, I think.
Yeah, it was quite a while.
Yeah,
I think it was actually longer than 2 months. I
I
feel like it was like 3 or 4.
it was quite a while for sure. Yeah. I think that back then, this was our first like step into bug hunting, and we knew that we were going to be doing more of this stuff in the Mathcord, because if we're looking at math, we're going to be start looking at all the weird little interactions and niches between different mods, and we expected to be able to uncover a lot of little bugs that came out, and boy have we. We're going to talk about them as we get to them.
Yeah, and this was at
However,
a time when they didn't even give that we didn't have patch notes like at all. We didn't like
yep,
we had to research like every mon all over again, every patch.
because the patch notes we received were basically just uh Gardevoir
Empowered.
damage increased. That was what it would say.
Move empowered.
Yeah, move empowered. Like, thanks. They were also in Japanese for the first time. I don't think they even had English patch notes at the very beginning.
No, we didn't.
But now, I would like to make a bit of a meta comment here. So, everything we've just talked about is basically the first month of the Mathcord. Like I said, there are about 3,100 pages of comments in the Mathcord. If you go and do a search for every comment that happened after the day the Mathcord opened, there's about 31,000 pages of comments to go through. Everything I've just talked about happened in the first 100 of those. The first 100 of the 31,000 pages. You might not be able to see all of them because you probably don't have all the perms that I do for all the different channels, the contributor channels and everything. But 31,000 pages. It's like 31,300 pages, something like that. This happened in the first 100 pages. I would drive myself goddamn insane if I needed to go through every single message ever posted into the Mathcord. So as such, I just stopped doing it at this point. Like, all this has been like roughly pre-written of things we're going to talk about. From this point onwards, I just have a bunch of notes of things that happened in the Mathcord, and we're just going to talk about them because holy shit, I do not feel like going through and making a full exhaustive, list of absolutely everything we did here. And
I don't blame you.
yeah, that first chunk that I wrote, with all these different values, all the different history and some specific moments and all that, took me about 8 hours to do. And
You asked if I could gather up all of the contributors from day one, and I couldn't even be bothered to go through contributor chat from day one to look at it. I had to think of a way to use code to do it for me.
yeah,
Because that even felt like a lot. And yeah, you're okay for having done what you did.
so now we're going to talk about just jot notes of things that happened. The first big thing we're going to talk about is the first time that the Mathcord and UniteDB had a controversy. This is like our first rivals. The first time that we had opposition to to our group moving forward. In late August, it came to our notice that there is a new website that existed that was very similar to UniteDB called Unite Pro. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history, and then Circa you can take away from here, but basically, there was a man named Angelo C., who's no longer in the community, doing his own thing, whatever, who approached us cold call and said, hey, UniteDB is a cool resource, but I would like to give you a full visual revamp. And we kind of at the time said, we'll talk to you later. That's not really what we're in the cards for right now. We might do it in the future, but right now we'd rather not. We'll let you know, and like once we've like established, which wasn't a lie. Right now we were just gathering everything we wanted.
We had a lot on our plate at that time. Like there was still so much data to go through and gather, and I was trying to add on to the site as well to expand from just the tier list items and mons. We wanted to add the RSBs, and it was just we had so much on our plate.
We were still in the process of literally gathering RSBs at the time. So it was just a huge project for you, and we were still in the thick of that. I don't blame you for saying no, we'll talk to you later. Because at this point, if somebody came and approached us, we said we might say maybe. But way back then, we were still like a young version, and we needed to like do a lot of other like updates before we were gonna do anything remotely close to that.
Yeah, and another issue, it's not that I said no, it's just that I said I can't at this time.
Yeah.
But Angelo also only knew React, which is the case with a lot of developers. The site uses Vue, not to get into the nitty gritty, but it uses a completely different framework that a lot of people aren't familiar with. So I would have been stuck having to do everything on my own, and I couldn't do that.
Yeah, so and based on the fact that you're still in the community and Angelo isn't, makes me tell that I was might have been the right choice ultimately. But um, here's the thing: Angelo wasn't really happy with our answer, and I kind of understand because like I know better than anybody else that when somebody who you looked up to says, "Oh, we'll look at your application later" or something like that, it really means no. It didn't actually mean that in our case because we're not a corporate shill company or anything. We're just some people who are working on a project. And as such, we didn't actually want to say no. We were just saying we can't right now, but we will chat with you later. Unfortunately, he took that as a no. What he did is he said, okay, middle fingers up. I'm going to make myself a competitor website. And used all the bells and whistles that you could imagine to create the most gorgeous possible website. It didn't even have all the things that we had, but because it looked so visually stunning, it pulled people in. They didn't have the chops to make a tier list, though, but the tier list was the big like puller. So what did they do instead? They spent that time to make a drafting tool. Unite Pro beat us, or was trying to beat us at our own game by, with less information, making it flashier and more user accessible. And that was a problem we needed to fix for sure. That our website wasn't the most user accessible at the time, but this was a direct slight, an attempt to basically take us down. Evie made a point that said Unite Pro website died already. Stopped updating when Hoopa, I think. So Hoopa is really funny. We'll get to there because the Hoopa point is something that is important, and that kind of temporal time has an important relevant. But yeah, Unite Pro actually, website now is dead. So we win. We
I
lived
remember
we
the
outlived
first
them.
time I saw the site, my heart sank to my stomach. I thought my code got leaked, and I mean, to me, it looked like Unite DB, but flashier.
Yeah.
It had more bells and whistles to the UI, and it just was a flashier version.
It
And
looked
my
like
heart
somebody
sank because
ported UniteDB to
I thought it was just my site gone, just ripped out.
yeah. Um why did you believe that at the time?
I had actually, so a couple developers. I mean, there's so many nice people in the community, but I had one guy that actually knew that he could work in Vue, which is the language that I work in and the framework that I work with. And he was the first developer that I invited to the project, the repo, the Git repo, and gave him access. And it was a scary process for me because this was my baby. This was actually my first child. And
No,
so
I'm
it
sure
was
your
about
first
a
child
week.
loves hearing that.
It was about a week later that I saw Unite Pro pop up. It was about a week of working with that developer, and I actually thought he just kind of took my source code and ran with it. So that was some of the reason. It turned out that wasn't the case, but that was my first instinctual thought.
So yeah, the problem I think more with Unite Pro at the time wasn't just so that they existed, but that they were trying to market themselves as basically the better Unite DB. They went to our allies and tried to poach people from us. They tried to get, they had a front page where they were advertising content creators. So they were trying to make deals with content creators to advertise their stuff on the front page as long as they would advertise Unite Pro. And it became this like cyclical loop of kind of predatory, helping each other. So, oh, you pat my back, I'll help yours. But if it's not actually um it wasn't actually like a good website by any means. Like it didn't have information people needed. It was just the things that existed in the game on a website without anything more meaningful to it. But it existed. It was something we couldn't do too much about. It kind of existed. We had a chat with them and said, hey, there's a little bit of overlap between our websites. So I think that what we can do is we'll stick to our lane, and you can stick to yours. You can like we'll like just do this, and we will never do anything that like overlaps the things that you guys do better than us. Like you have your drafting thing, you can completely do that. You do your
Yeah, they
drafting thing,
wanted
we
to
will
focus
never.
on the
Yeah.
competitive side a lot more
Yeah.
and helping the competitors.
Yep. And we basically made an agreement that says you like don't take our things. We won't deal with the competitive side. You can stay with your draft thing. and like we'll keep our lanes separate enough where although the little overlap is necessary, we'll let it go. Just we don't want to have the case where either website completely eclipses the other, because I think a little bit of competition is good while not just being rips of the other. A lot like some of their values were things that like existed on UniteDB, but we let a lot of it go and said we'll like just please don't just copy all of our values because this is like our our repository. It feels really bad if you copy our repository. And they said yes, we understand. Cool.
Yeah, and one of the big things for me were the descriptions, because
Yeah.
the game does not do a good job of telling you everything that a move does, or even items. Some of the items were lacking like half of the info they didn't have in there. I believe Shellbell didn't actually show you the percentage, right? Or
Correct. We had to deduce the percentage.
yeah, there's a lot of things that the game didn't actually tell you. So I feel like just ripping that content is kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, but we let most of it go. They didn't actually rip the exact names, like the exact description names off everything. They did like when they first did it, they did. We told them, hey, that's not cool. Do you mind like rewriting them in your own words? And they said, you know what, we're okay with that. We will rewrite all of the different abilities in our own words, so it's like it's more standardized for their website. We were okay with that. We lived with it. We did what we could. It's done. We're gonna talk about Unite Pro again in the future when we get to it temporally, but I want to move past it for now and talk about other things that happened, and we'll reach Unite Pro when there are more things to talk about, because more things happen. But for now, we reached the first big hurdle in our RSB project. Basically, there was a couple abilities that we could not solve. Notably, things like Gengar Shadow Ball, we couldn't solve. Things like Snorlax Flail, we couldn't solve.
Hence the emote.
Oh yes, the
Math Panic.
Yeah, Math Panic. Oh god, Gardevoir. Gardevoir was a massive, massive pain in the dick. Oh my lord! Like, however bad you think it is, Gardevoir actually took us several months to figure out what the fuck was wrong. We did not we could not figure out what was wrong with Gardevoir because nothing lined up with any of our values. Nothing ever worked out. There was no consistency involved in Gardevoir. It wasn't until a little later, when data mines first hit Unite, that we realized what it is. Yes, by the way, Shiroi, that is exactly what I'm talking about, and that bug is still around. Turns out that Gardevoir has a bug, kind of, where we didn't realize at the time because there was no way for us to realize it, but when you take Gardevoir Teleport, Gardevoir's special attack is increased by 15% for the entire game. Why? Who fucking knows? It doesn't matter. Like, there's
Pick
no reason
teleport
for
first.
it. Yeah, pick teleport first because no, you don't pick teleport first because like,
well, it's not a damaging move.
It's not. Yeah, you don't have any damage, but like, it's not special attack. It's just damage modifier. Is it just a damage modifier?
I thought it was actually
something like that. Yeah, you're right. Their damage increased by 50%. So we had the values, we had the stat values correctly because the healing it got was correct. So we knew it's correct special attack, but nothing ever lined up. We had some things that were very close, but it never worked, and we could not figure out why until data mines came out. And when we had data mines, we first looked at some of the values, and it did not like a lot of our values line up with a lot of things, but it did not line up at all with Gardevoir. And we tested it. And we realized what happened. And we were just leaning back in awe. When you go to Gardevoir and you level up to level 3, you use Confusion, it does a certain amount of damage. You then pick Teleport and use Confusion again. It does more damage. What the fuck?
Timmy Googlies. Here we go again.
Yeah, we discovered Teleport gives a 15% damage buff. For some reason.
There's so many weird things with this game, honestly.
That took us a long time to figure out, and it's still on Gardevoir's page. It still exists. It is incredibly stupid and just does not make any sense why that exists, but it does. And it's still in the game now. Whatever. God, that was such a stupid bug. And it is a stupid bug. I don't know why it exists, and it really just made our lives so much more difficult.
Yep. It's unfortunate. Some of these maths should have been a lot easier, but things like this kind of threw us for a loop.
Timmy Googly, you know. The next big thing that we were doing after this was so after this point we figured out one of the bugs, we figured out the values, but we found another bug in the game. Some of you might remember, if you've been here for quite a long while, what the strongest items in the game were. Buddy Barrier was a mandatory pick on everybody. Not because that the Buddy Barrier itself was strong, which it was, but not just because of that, but also because it gave you 600 HP at max level. What the shit? That is so much HP. Right now it's only 450, but that's still quite a lot of HP.
That passive was broken though.
Yeah,
on release it was ridiculous.
Yeah, that passive gave a
For,
lot of HP.
9 months or something.
But it also gave 600 HP. What the shit? Score Shield, I believe, was the same. It was also 600 HP. They were just both independently ridiculously strong items. So basically, it was Buddy Barrier, Score Shield, and either Focus Band or Muscle Band on everybody. Those were the two builds. It was everybody took Buddy Barrier, everybody took Score Shield, and then you had to choice between MB or Focus Band.
Yeah, it was quite a diverse meta.
Yeah. However, because everybody used Score Shield, some bugs came up. And this was our first official ban recommendation. Snorlax. Now, we got this wrong, and I will admit that I got this wrong, and this was one that I, really pushed hard for, and we got wrong. Snorlax block. If somebody begins scoring with Score Shield, they're supposed to be immune to CC. If you use block, at the time, if you used anything that gives you immunity to shields, you could walk through Snorlax's shield. Like Snorlax's shield, you could just walk right through. It just did not have a true pushing barrier like it does now.
Unstoppable.
Yeah, if you had unstoppable, you could just walk through his barrier. That's no longer true, but that used to be the case at the time. So we believed it to be a bug that when you use Score Shield and you are in the Score Shield animation to because you're scoring and somebody pushed you with the block, you could be pushed while you had Score Shield up. That is stupid. That should not have been the case.
Yep.
Why is
invalidating block? An item?
Yeah, it's invalidating an item. One ability, it was already one of the strongest items in the game, and on top of that, it just negated one of the strongest abilities in the game, block. And not only was it able to break you out of that, but it was able to push you off of the goal. And if you were off the goal, while you were still scoring, because it didn't actually stop you from scoring, it just pushed you off the goal. If you were holding down the score button and it pushed you off the goal, you would continue to score, and then eventually you did the dunk animation. And you would do the whole dunk animation, and you wouldn't score any points. It just completely robbed you of that. It just, whoop, bye-bye, you're off. Get fucked.
I do remember that Talonflame bug. That I am a Talonflame main. I have over 1,000 games on Talonflame, and that was also lame. There's no way it should have pushed Talonflame in fly. Yeah,
when Talonflame was mid-fly, block didn't actually have a vertical limit to it, because the game is actually coded to be a three-dimensional game where verticality actually does matter, which is really stupid because it should not work that way. But for some reason, block just doesn't have a vertical limit. But so yeah,
I don't know if it still happens.
I don't think it does happen anymore. But yeah, block just did not have it
in months. My life is crazy.
Did not have a Y value. Block was just infinite height.
Yep. Weird.
It was incredibly stupid. So yeah, that Snorlax bug, we had Snorlax banned for 4 or 5 months before we finally got confirmation that actually this is intended behavior, and or this is behavior that we're not planning on fixing, so live with it, dummies. I was very pissed off at that. However, we kind of pivoted off of this once I heard the whole once we got past this, we made another discovery. But this was my least favorite discovery we ever made, which was me realizing that our previous discovery was wrong. So let's go back to armor that I mentioned before, defenses. I mentioned that the first defenses thing was wrong. Well, the correct value is 600 plus defenses divided by 600. That is how you calculate the effective HP, or you do it the other way around, where you do 600 divided by 600 plus your defenses, and that's how much your defenses are negated, how much damage is negated by defenses, or how much damage is left through because of defense or something like that. However, I thought it was 1500 divided by 1500 minus defenses, because it worked out. Why was I wrong? Well, it turns out, for some stupid fucking reason, that in practice mode, bots had 40% of the defenses of normal mons. What the shit?
Never trust practice tool.
So, not just that, not only practice tool, but practice tool was like the big one. But on top of that, we also found out that that was the case in bot games too. In bot games, if you were playing a game of Pokemon Unite, if you do into a bot game, bots would have 40% of the defenses, which meant that you would always deal so much more damage than it should deal. And it just made, but it's one of the reasons why bot games were so much easier back then than they are today.
Yeah, they fixed that, right?
Yeah, they kind of fixed it. There's a little bit of screwery right now, but it's like it's basically the same now. I think it's like 95% of the defenses now, but for some reason it still a little bit exists. But yeah, that, as Pink just says, never trust practice. That was us realizing a point that we can basically only trust one thing in this game, and it is our previous values. We trust the values that we know are true because we've experimentally tested everything recursively, where all the values internally back up everything else.
Yeah, early on we learned that there's just so much weirdness with practice. Even the way that bees spawned was different in practice.
Yep.
Because I remember doing a lot of work on that and then coming to find out that it's a few seconds of a difference in practice.
So the big thing was that in practice mode, everything happened locally. You never connected to the server. So everything happened just like at the 45-second mark or the 30-second mark. But in the game, things happened like 3 or 4 seconds delayed. So like instead of you like the bees spawning at 145 or whatever, they would spawn at 142, which was just dumb. But this actually does bring up an interesting bug that I didn't have on my point list. I want to see if you remember, Circa. Do you remember the bug where the scoring in the last 3 seconds of the game didn't work?
Vaguely. That one I remember vaguely.
If you scored in the last 2 or 3 seconds of the game, your score did not count.
The game had to do with the network ping, like
no, it didn't. It did
that,
kind of. It had to do with the fact that the server was on a continuous 3-second like rollback, which is why everything else was 3 seconds delayed. The game started 3 seconds before you were able to control your characters, and the timer was just wrong, basically. Right. And it caused everybody to be like kind of desynced to the server, and it created a lot of funny issues. We're like, okay, well, Zapdos doesn't spawn at 2 minutes. It spawned at like 1:57 or something sometimes. But sometimes also spawned at 2 minutes, so we couldn't explain why. It sometimes happened, sometimes didn't. It eventually got fixed, but this was like a major issue for quite a long while, where sometimes you were like, it's a close couple seconds of the game, you scored your final goal at like about 4 to 3 seconds, you don't know whether that goal counted or not. And it just caused some games to be flipped where they really shouldn't have been flipped.
Yeah, I remember working on the map, the interactive map that was once on UniteDB that is no longer there.
Rip. Because you didn't want to do it for remote?
Well, I had, for
assignments.
Yeah. I couldn't get like a good map to like line up well enough, so I just scrapped it. Especially since I would have kept it if they would have kept remote in rotation, which I still think they should do. I think they should just.
They changed the map like rotation. A year ago and haven't 2 years ago or something. I haven't changed it back. It's kind of annoying.
But yeah, I went to put in the B respawns and durations, and I remember I had to give up and just say that there's a range of when it can. There's like a 3 to 5 second range of when they can respawn.
Wow, Thea's been a thing for like a year now.
After the last Worlds, I believe is when they changed it.
Yep, it looks like it's like September.
But yeah, I do think that they should keep maps in rotation. Like, it's kind of weird to get rid of a ranked map, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. But that was the case. It happened. Whatever. I would like to pivot to our first Pokemon Unite ante. Moist Critical. Who here remembers Moist Critical's videos on Pokemon Unite? That was a fun little time for the Mathcord. We basically got a huge spike in membership then when Moist Critical first popped up, when Voice Critical first popped up, he made a video talking about how Pokemon Unite was pay to win. And he basically went on and he bought absolutely everything. He leveled up everything to level 30. He bought all the Pokemon. He went and started slaying noobs in Great and said that this game is clearly this game is clearly pay to win. This was like in July 23rd, 2021. No, Mr. Who's the Boss did one later, but this was long before that. Mr. Who's the Boss did like a handful of months ago. It was like almost a year ago. But Voice Critical did it when the game was first released, and it was disastrous. It was awful. Yeah, the video was really well received by his viewers, and very poorly received by anybody who knew the slightest fucking little bit about Pokemon Unite. Like, my god, I absolutely hated this. Everything about the comments were just like immense shit, because it just sounded like he knew everything about the game. Hell, his build wasn't even very good. Like, he used let me actually go pull up exactly what so he used level 25 leftovers, level 25 floatstone, and level 30 muscle band on Zero Aura. And he's like, I'm styling on these kids because they're so bad at the game, and because that I have all these items that make me so OP. All that he was doing was
in his defense, that there's leftovers is another item they don't tell you completely how it works.
Sure, it doesn't matter though. But
the out of combat stuff, they don't even tell you how long it takes to be out of combat.
I'm not saying that that he was done because his build was bad. I'm saying that his build was bad, therefore making his thesis redundant. That the items make a huge difference, because it did not. Like, he only really had like one damaging item. And the reason why he was styling was because he was in really low ranks and he was killing people who never played a MOBA before. This had nothing to do with all the leveling up and ranked that it was. But because he said it's pay to win, PTW, everybody believed it as such. Yeah. Let me actually see what Great Class 1. This was his first video was him in Great Class. And everybody was, and he was like, oh man, this game is so pay to win. Holy crap. I'm
well, not to mention though that like this was very early in the game where just everybody was bad at the game. I know.
Yeah.
Indy says it all the time. Inder says it all the time. Like, everybody is bad or was bad. At this point, we have had enough time. A lot of people were getting really good at the game, but back then, everybody was bad.
Yeah, so there are some people here who's like, I was so confused. My whole team couldn't take down one Snorlax the entire game. We ended the game with only 2 kills, and we were trying to figure out how the hell our opponents bodied us with default attacks while we threw Unite boots at them. Now you can just buy all the upgrades. Pretty lame. And I went back and I'm like, I still don't understand what that even means. Because, like, the items don't do any of that. There's, like, it has nothing to do. The items don't do any of that. The item does nothing.
We've had 2 YouTubers now that made videos on leftovers. I think we can all just assume that leftovers is OP.
There was one based comment in reply to the one I just mentioned that says, you guys realize he ended up losing some despite paying to win because he doesn't know how to play objectives and he gets Zapdos stolen. He's also in a low tier and ladder, so he's playing against children. Kind of sad when you're 4 levels higher and still lose. So, like, people knew that, like, clearly this game was a little different than a lot of things, but God, that video made me so mad. And he made a fucking sequel video where he continued to play Pokemon Unite because he was crushing noobs the entire time. And the comments were still just filled with, like, oh, God, it makes me seethe.
It's sad. It really is to see people do stuff like that. It harms a game so much. People just won't even check it out.
But, like, a lot of people did check it out because of his video. And we had a huge surge of people joining the server. But the problem is that those people were all, how do I put this nicely? Fucking stupid. And basically would come in and look at our values and say, oh, why are you playing a dead game? This game's not going to survive. Which, I mean, that's a commentary that you can say whether it's fair or not. But they said, like, oh, this game's pay to win. You guys are just trying to pad Nintendo's pockets, blah, 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 blah. And once we banned out most of those people, the people who stayed were pretty chill and worked pretty nicely. But it was a big, like, you know, people who've got smooth brains kind of movement there, and that was not a fun time. There's a dead pay to win game, yeah. What's next? Well, right off the back of that, as we're reaching, like, September-ish, 2020, 2021, temporally, and the rest of this whole thing. We're going to talk about the Floatstone Champions event. Does anybody remember that event? That was tons of fun. Anybody here?
I do.
Yeah, I remember that as well. I believe you put in $500 and I put in $500 collectively, and we said that was like $1,000 grand prize for the Floatstone tournament.
Yeah.
Floatstone, for those who don't know, Floatstone was basically the server that came before Eos Ascension. If you know Eos Ascension, before that they were Eos Frontier, and before that they were Floatstone. And they had this big tournament, and it got a lot of pros together, and it was like one of the first big like tournaments of the scene. And UniTB was the sponsor because we wanted to be there at the head, saying we're starting esports right at the head. It was partially because we wanted to get a bit more eyes on UniTB, but also because like we wanted the community to thrive. And I think it was a pretty good event, personally. You think so, Circa?
Yeah, I had a blast. It was definitely eye-opening, and for what it's worth, I wish I could afford to, but I would love to sponsor a team. I would love to just have a team for UniTB. That would be a dream, but I can't do
Now,
it.
the interesting question is, do you know uh, who won that tournament?
Oh my, I actually don't. That's sad.
Neither do I. I can't find. Oh, here's the battle fight for it. Oh well, never mind. You should know. You should be able to figure out who won pretty easily. Who do you think won?
I mean, yeah, I'm with Shiro here. It's probably TTV,
You are
but
correct.
they won like every tournament in the first like
So
6 months.
that's not true. That's not true. They were the most obvious team to win, but every once in a
Yeah.
while, I believe Mike Spam was on Pip Champs at the time. I think Pip Champs was
Yep.
Mike Spam's team, and that was also a very
With
competitive
Sanji,
team.
right? Sanji was.
It was Sanji, Sanji and Snow Points, yeah,
Yep.
and that team was doing very well as well. In Bruv, Taylor Sonata, Gosu as Gosu.
Oh man, I forgot how much these teams have changed over the
Yeah,
years too.
TTV at the time was George G, Carvanen, Zugrug, Indy, Toon, and Lutano.
Yep.
So, like, still a chunk of whatever they are today. Like, they're still like a lot of those people are still people who are known. There was also No Light. There was a
I
No
think
Light
Goof is
was
the only one that left.
pardon?
I think Goof is the only one that left. I mean, he's not part of
Yeah,
TTV, but
but
actually
yeah.
left. Right?
Then third place had Mike Spam, Faz, Relic, Junkie. Like they're all well known members of the community, and they stayed
Mhm.
around quite a while. That was like the first big tournament that decided, are you a relevant member of this community in terms of like, do you actually have like the chops to stay around? And a lot of the people who are here are still very relevant in the community today, and because of that, it was honestly pretty freaking cool. Um, oh, and then there was like White Flag Gaming where Xavier and Celestial were first like a big thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was just a lot of really well known people, and it wasn't a super major tournament. It wasn't a huge tournament, but it was like the first thing that showed, yeah, esports for Unite is going to be cool. And TTV lost games like in this tournament. Like, they did lose games, but they didn't lose. They didn't lose enough to get out, booted out. They went to the final game against Red Shell, and they went to game 4 with Pip Champs. But yeah, they were just clearly the dominant team, and they continue to do so ever since. And I'm pretty happy that they that UnitedB got to sponsor this first like big tournament.
Yeah, it was a huge moment in my life. That was the first time that I was really ever a part of esports at all. It was fun to be a part of.
Yeah. So looking here, wow. Oh, I forgot about Ascendance. That was a cool team way back then. Had Excellent, Jungle Book, Freddy, Reflex, FF Zapdos. Oh man, I forgot about FF Zapdos. I haven't thought about that in a while. There was Gold Diggers was another really well-known team. They had like Hypnotic and Iconic. A lot of these
Mm-hmm.
names just going through were just like all big relevant members of the community at the time. Warriors GT. I'm just reminiscing. Yeah, I think that this event had like almost 60 players. I think there was like how many teams were there? participants.
That
63,
right.
it says. There's a handful of people who didn't show, but 63 teams registered. We almost had a full tournament. A full 64-person tournament. Crazy, right?
Yeah, I think it was the I think it was the biggest payout tournament at the time.
Oh yes, it was, yeah. Because that we sponsored it. It became this big thing. Um Tournament stream? What was the stream? I didn't realize that they streamed the whole thing. I'll see if I can go find any
Oh
VODs
yeah,
for it, but
yeah, they definitely did. Yeah, they had
probably no
they
VODs.
made their own channel.
What else then? What came after that? Oh, the Greedent bug came after that. Who here remembers the big Greedent game-breaking bug? This was I think the worst bug to have come out at that point yet. When Greedent was first released. Circa, you want to explain?
Uh, you reminded me of it, but I tried to block it out of my memory. Actually, I think is what happened because that was toxic. That was so toxic. A defender just literally team wiping is just that's something. That's special. Yes, unlimited belches. It was after you used your unite, you could just spam belch. Just just keep spamming it. It never stops. You get
Yeah.
like 30 of them out.
It just it was supposed to like oh you it removes Belcher's cooldown. Yeah, but the problem is that like resets his cooldown every tick, so you could just spam it like 30 times a second. Fuck, it was
Pretty nuts.
God, that was such a stupid bug. It became the point where it was like not only like impossible to play against, but it was like so broken that we had to ban it in tournaments. And because of our involvement in that first big tournament, people were starting to look to us for recommendations of bans. So we started like, you know what? Greedent is gonna be our next like big ban. We had banned Zero Aura earlier because it had the one like slash bug where you could auto at the same time as doing slash and it did a bunch of damage. There was Greedent Unlimited Burping. There was the all of these like we got people like interested in like and in taking our opinion for what was competitively viable and what was competitively fair. So yeah, Greedent, oh, absolute disaster. But that was like the big turning point of where people started to say, okay, let's trust Unite DB and Mathcord to be able to say what is competitively fair or not. Because once that belch bug started going around and everybody started knowing how to use it, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, there's been a few rough bugs, but that's one of the top.
It's not the top bug. The top bug is coming up in a second. We've got two more things to talk about before we reach the worst bug in Pokemon Unite history. Guesses in the channel right now. If you guys want to take a guess as to what you think my vote for the worst bug to have ever existed in Pokemon Unite is. So first of all, let's talk about.
Chad got it.
Oh yeah, Chad immediately got it. Oh no, not Lucario bug. Lucario bug was bad.
Yeah, that was bad too.
Immortal Cram is absolutely the the bug I'm talking about.
That's probably why he gets nerfed. It's Cram still gets nerfed all the time.
Luca worse than Cram? What are you talking about? Lucario did a lot of damage. It was very hard to kill, but Cramorant was literally immune to damage.
Literally,
Like
not
literally immune.
sarcastically.
It was literally immune to abilities until it scored. Though who cares? Because you could just you could, like if it's scored, you can just reactivate the bug again. It's so easy to activate the bug. And all you have to do is every time you score, you reactivate the bug. It was just using an ability when you were in the middle of a scoring animation. And there you go. You're now immune for the entire game. And every time you scored after that, as long as you used the ability then, you would be able to get the bug again. And you could just stay invulnerable even when you scored. It was very dumb. But yeah, after that... so anyways, we'll get to that in a second. After Ingredient Bug, Equus. You guys might know, we currently have Shiny Equus as our logo right now. Cough, cough, wink, wink. But yeah, we found the actual mascot for our server, Equus. Equus, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Because it was our idea of like, what is like a very mathy Pokemon? Because we wanted to have a mascot that would be very mathy. And we thought, well, Plusle and Minun feel great, right? But I put it to a poll, I think, actually. Quite a while ago. I'm working with a graphic designer to give a Mathcord a facelift. I'd like a Pokemon mascot. Right now I have two ideas. Reply for me to add more. I had Porygon and Magnemite. Those were the two that we were looking at right now because Polygon's mathematics, cool. And Magnemite just felt like it just, the electricity felt like it was a good think it was a good idea as well. However, somebody replied and said, hey, Nub Nub Mud, who I have the credit for this, replied and said, hey, why not Minun and Plusle? And I said, that's a good idea. Fuck. Okay, guys, we're voting again. This time on Porygon, who won the previous vote, versus Minun and Plusle. This will be the last vote. And Minun and Plusle won 8-6. It was a close. It was a very close bid. Very, very close. We had some people who voted on both sides, but overall it came down to like basically one person flipping in order to get what we had now. And then more time passed, and I said, well, we could do a Plusle and Minun thing. But eventually Minun and Plusle were our new mascots. Cool. Then, like a week later, I had the idea of, wait a moment, why would we do Plusle and Minun when we could do like a third one? Because we don't care about adding and minusing. We care about getting the answers. We care about seeing what everything equals up to. So we said, let's make a third. Our mascot is going to be the third Plusle Minun triplet. And we created Equus, and that's who we are, and that's who we have today. Circa, I'm not sure if you remember when all that happened, but do you, like, how do you feel about Equus as our mascot? Do you think it's like a good representation of...
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm so glad that is the mascot.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with it as well. Do you have any other takes regarding Equus or anything else?
I don't think so. I'm glad that was the outcome.
Yeah,
it's so perfect.
I like
it's actually perfect.
It really just works so friggin' well. We've now attached it to like our image as a general rule. Right now we have we have Shiny Equus as our logo. Haha, cough cough, wink wink. Whose actual name I will not say because it's banned in the server. Don't you dare say the actual mon's name. It'll be edited in for the podcast here for when for anybody who's listening in, we will see what Shiny Equus actually was for our April Fool's Day joke. But I'm not gonna say it because it's banned. It's not allowed on the server. How dare we? What's next? Oh, hey Circa.
What's up?
The next chapter is what might be my favorite point in this entire episode. Our false flag. Would you like to explain how we caught everybody with their pants down?
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about now. Sure. Yeah. So, had a feeling that a lot of creators out there, a lot of other website creators or what have you, and any app creators were just copying, just straight ripping info and not crediting, and that doesn't feel great. And so we had the idea to take a mon that doesn't care at all about special attack. So we used an attack mon that was going to release, and we changed 2 special attack values because why? They don't matter. If you're using Shell Bell on Decidueye, then you have other problems. But yeah, we changed 2 values, 2 special attack values at 2 different levels on Decidueye, and caught a few pretty major players just straight ripping content.
There was, of course, Unite Pro, who we're going to bring back into the conversation in a little bit. Unite Pro did rip off of us, and we were pretty mad at them about that. But they weren't the ones that we actually expected to catch. We were Unite Pro was one that we were expected to catch. It was the other websites that we weren't expecting. We did the false flag for the sake of catching Unite Pro. And Unite Pro, although they were caught, were not the ones that were caught the hardest. We received a message from one of us that said, "Hey, at Unite DB, did you know that Cerebi got caught in your false flag attack?" And our jaws were on the floor. Oh shit! Oh no! And we went and pulled up Cerebi, and sure the fucking enough, Cerebi's numbers were our false flag numbers. They had stolen the numbers directly off our website. So I went and talked to Joe directly. Yo, what the fuck? And he says, nope, we did not steal your values. But this was like before I had shown him all the evidence. I said, hey, you guys are taking our values. You have the same values as us. He says, nope, we have an independent team who all does their own research, and we're not taking the values off of you. Yes, you are taking the values off of us. These are the values that we posted. You might have posted them, but they're objective values. Like, anybody could have grabbed them. We're not taking them off of you. And then we show them the tweet and says, yes, you are. These are values we specifically put in that could not have been obtained through experimentation. you guys are stealing values off of us. And Joe went silent. He just like jaw dropped. Oh shit. Oh my god. This isn't supposed to happen. I'll be right back. And he left for like a day or two and then came back and said, I'm greatly apologize for what happened. We have a small team that didn't have a lot of oversight beforehand, and it turns out that instead of doing the research as they said that they've been doing, they've just been taking the research that you guys were doing and putting it onto our website. I'm sorry this
Yeah,
has
I
happened.
talked to him, and he told me that for that particular instance, they I guess had a different data miner help them out that they'd never worked with before, and that guy must have ripped the values.
Yeah,
That's what I was told.
this was a pretty big scandal at the time. That one of the biggest databases in like all of Unite was taken from our data, because first of all, it looks really bad on them because they are stealing off of smaller indie work. But on the other hand, it looks really great for us because looking back and saying, "Wow, Cerebi, this gigantic like Discord and the huge community that has like 20 years of established history is coming to us and taking our values because we are so trustworthy." And they got caught in that fire. Although we also caught Dexerto as well, because of course we caught
Yeah, that
Dexerto
was another
because
one.
of course I did. Credit where it's due. I will give credit where it's due. Although GameMate is the scum of the absolute fucking earth when it comes to not having anything meaningful or helpful about Pokemon Unite, and everything they say is terrible, they didn't steal values off of us.
That's true. You gotta give credit where it's due. They did. They do put in elbow grease.
Their elbow grease is uninformed and stupid, but they do put in actual elbow grease, and I will give them credit where it's due. Yeah, it was a pretty funny moment, and it definitely. I'm gonna see if I can go find where we first started talking about that.
I remember being on the fence about doing it at all, but I thought it would be funny at the end of the day, just to scratch my curiosity. I think I pretty much did it for that reason alone.
And it turned out that holy crap, yeah, there are some websites that are just direct stealing off of us. Let me go quickly see if I can find where that tweet was, because I know the tweet no longer exists. I'm sure it doesn't anymore, but
Oh, Cerebees, yeah.
no, I mean the tweet that Unite that because we made it from the UniteDB website.
Oh, yeah. That's gonna be gone for sure because
Yeah, from the UniteDB
long
Twitter.
long long story short, the Unite DB Twitter died because I couldn't handle social media for a while, so I had to leave for a couple months, and Twitter deleted my account, so I had to start it back up. So literally anything before like last year when I restarted it is gone,
Yeah,
which is sad because there were some things that I wish I didn't lose, but
alas.
I just could not do social media for a bit. But yeah, Joe, and I think he did it on his personal and on
Yeah,
Cerebi officially made a
yeah.
response.
He did make a response, on the officially and unofficially. And when he talked to us directly, he did give a big apology and like, this shouldn't have happened. This
Yeah,
was
he did apologize profusely to me. We're all good these days.
Yes, we are now all better, but that was a very fun time. What was the other one? It was Dex. How do you spell it? Is it Dexerto or Dex? Yeah, Dexerto. Here
Yeah,
we go.
Erto. Yep, Dexerto. Which again, I would suggest anybody use Game 8. If you're not gonna use Unite DB, use Game 8 over Dexerto at least, because
Yeah, it's not good, but like it's
they
at
don't even
least
research
slightly
stuff.
better. Here we go. Okay, I found it. Hi at everyone. This is November 19th, 2021. I'm pinging you all because of the above tweet on behalf of UniTB and the Mathcord, as well as Icarus Twins Gamer Escape. We here have no issue with anyone using anything we release as long as proper credit is given. If a user in the Mathcord makes a discovery, credit them in your video. If you're using UniTB to do damage comparisons on a blog post, please credit us accordingly. It's really disheartening to go online and see rip-off blogs that have gotten significant traction by reiterating things said here, giving no credit, establishing it as their own thought, and getting clout for it. Set your sources, please. Most people have been very good about this, but we've noticed a handful of notable names trying to pass off our discoveries as their own. And you made a tweet, the actual Unite DB Twitter, and unfortunately, because of that account no longer exists, the whole tweet history is gone.
hmm
My Wayback
Yeah, it's
Machine to go look
unfortunate.
for it at some point, but that was a very very interesting time, very spicy by C time there. Game 8, I think like why they couldn't get deleted because we disabled it because that Circa wanted to take a step away from your social media and everything. So disable the account, and unfortunately, if you disable an account for 6 or more months, it automatically deletes it, which is a shame. But
I actually don't even think it was 6. Was it? It might have been.
I think
I
or
think
3 months or whatever it was.
I think it's 3. Yeah, but I might have stepped away for longer than like close to 6 months. But yeah, I had to take a break from social media. It was definitely longer than 3 months, and my account just got auto deleted.
Okay, so I found the tweet and I found the whole way back everything. I could see who liked it at the time. Unfortunately, I can't see all of the like any of the people who were sending us in replies. So I remember that there was somebody who sent a reply that showed the Cerebi values that were all wrong, which is just a fun time for us. Anyways, let's move on from that. We talked about quite enough. After the whole Cerebi thing came the Cramorant game-breaking bug. Ooh.
The fun bug.
So yeah, I'll explain the very precise details of it because if it ever happens again, it doesn't fucking matter. The game's dead anyway. So if if this bug comes back and something like this, then the game may as well be dead because holy shit, it's unplayable. If you scored as Cramorant, and then between when you started to score and when you dunked, you used Feather Dance, I think was the ability, then it would like kick you out of your scoring animation, and you would stay in the permanent, like, you're invulnerable animation. You could still damage enemies and Whirlpool. You could still damage enemies. You could still do things around the world, but they could not hurt you. You were just invulnerable. You could not be damaged. It was stupid. You did not need Goal Getter.
Yeah, ranked was unplayable.
It was literally unplayable.
For quite a while.
Because it was basically an avoid the cram game. It was very, very stupid. This was like when we discovered this, we put it on our announcements. Said we are not explaining how it's done, and explaining how it's done is a bannable offense. And that's basically how we got that rule. Where it's like if we're talking about game breaking bugs, talking about it is a ban. Is like a straight ban basically. Because this one was so damning and so breaking to the game that to spread it would cause active damage to the game, little by little, more active damage, and it was really bad. Oh my god. Scyther's a bug, please don't ban. Yeah, Scyther and Buzz will both ban them both for being bugs.
I hate mosquitoes.
God, fuck mosquitoes. They're so but why do mosquitoes exist? Like, do they provide any actual meaningful benefit to the world? They're just terrible. It was Whirlpool once leveled and you couldn't have the move anymore. How is it worse than Lucario one-shotting you for the entire game? Because Cram was literally invincible.
Yeah.
You could not deal damage to Cramorant.
He can face tank you. I mean...
He would walk into you and he'd be able to spam his other ability and auto-attack you and you would just die. Because, you can't hurt him. He would be completely invincible for several minutes. Yes, Lucario could one-shot you, but then his abilities were on cooldown, and you could try to gang up on him. Lucario could 1v5 you, but it wasn't always consistent.
It wasn't near as bad.
That had skill. You need to be skilled for it.
Cramorant was just keep your distance. Just keep Lucario off your screen. You're fine, for the most part. Cram will just walk up in your face.
Yep, and you just couldn't do shit.
Yep.
So... after Cramorant, though, we reached January 1st, 2022, which is when we began to implement the meta tab on UniteDB. And
it was a long week.
It was a very long week, but I'm not sure if he's in here right now. I don't think he is, unfortunately. Is Icarus anywhere in here?
He's probably sleeping. He was helping with AO's Cup.
Unfortunately, Icarus is not here for me to be able to pull him in, but this is when Unite API first was released, January 1st, 2022. This was about 6 to 7 months after the game first released publicly, and Unite API became this big thing. And we were right alongside him, helping build the whole thing. And when it came out on January 1st, it was this whole fanfare, and we started to share it. We were now partners. We were working together on a lot of things. He helped us get values for our meta page, and in turn we would provide more publicity on our side. We would partner very closely and help however we can. It was this whole thing. People are not talking about that Icarus is now well established in the community, because Icarus is now on contract for UCS tomorrow because he's the official stats coordinator, which you could see if you look at the credits at the end of them, you can see all the credits, all the names, and he's there as a stats coordinator. Oh my god, I'm having a list. Icarus Twine.
Yeah, he's come a long way.
Genuinely, it's I'm very proud of where he is right now. Very proud that we kind of helped get people into these positions now. I will be talking about the other community members who've gone and done bigger and brighter things than Mathcord as well. People like Evo and Ven, who are now both professional esports analysts. Holy shit!
Hype train.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to that. After
Fun
UNITPI,
fact.
yeah.
Unite DB and Unite API were possibly looking to merge at one point.
Yeah, there was this idea that Unite API and Unite DB were going to be the same thing. We were going to basically say Unite API becomes like a part of Unite DB, like a tab or its own like sub website or something. And Icarus would still have full control of that. It would just be like the same domain. We would split all of the ad rev together, and we would make sure that everybody is
rule the world. Don't forget about that.
Exactly. Take over the world. WD40, thank you for boosting the server. I greatly appreciate you, bud. If we get boosting the server while we're doing a podcast, I've got to give you a direct shout out now. That's nice. Everybody give some light applause. Woo! We're now only one boost away from being able to get the custom. We're now officially at 14 boosts. That now means that we can give ourselves a cosmetic invite link. I'm gonna do that right now.
We got the grease from WD40. Thanks.
We are now discord.gg/mathcord. We now officially have an invite URL.
Very nice.
Look at that. Look at that. We have our own actual customer.
Boom.
Link. That's so good. I love that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pull up the Discord onto my recording here so everybody can see the. Thank you very much for SB Doodles and WD40 for the boosting. 10K members, PogChamp.
Now I got to change the link on the site.
Yeah, now we can do. Well, the problem is that if we lose all of the boosts, I think we also lose the cosmetic one.
Okay.
Yeah, it is good to get people in and remember it. That's just great. I love it.
Yep.
Anyways, so yeah, that merger was going to be really interesting. Because I think that it would have been better for both of us to just have one name for everybody to remember between. DB,
it made sense too.
API. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I'm a front end developer, and they're both back end developers. They needed a front end developer. It made so much sense to just merge
exactly.
The sites.
Icarus, like I'm the analyst. Icarus is the back end, and you're the front end. And together we make a really powerful team to create a perfect this is what a website should be. We have the one person who's getting us the data. We have one person who's doing what people see, and one person who's constructing the data in the back end. It's just a win-win-win all the way around. Unfortunately, it didn't end up working out. We had there were some conflicts with other personnel that I'm not going to delve into the specifics of. But
probably for the best.
Yeah, I'm not gonna call out anybody in specific because that's a little shitty to do on a podcast. But yeah, there was some there was a little Discord that happened. I don't mean Discord as in like the app. I mean like a little Discord between some. This podcast, of course, has never called out anybody in specific. Oh man. Oh, okay, wait. I'm really tempted now to call out somebody in specific for a different unrelated thing just because it'd be really funny for the gag.
Yeah, the Witty 10, he is the worst. Biggest griefer.
I was going to make a call out to a certain content creator, but...
I don't know who that would be.
Make a direct call out to a content creator who has been pretty shitty to us in the past. A certain one that begins with the letter K, which I won't elaborate further. But... do I want? Nah, I won't commit that bit any further.
Coke with a K? Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's it.
But yeah, after Unite API exists for a little bit, a couple weeks passed, and we've realized, okay, bugs are now coming out a lot more often. There's more bugs that have come out. We need to ban more mons. Greedent was banned. Cramorant was banned. Zeraora was banned at a point. Snorlax was banned at a point. There's a lot of bans that had to go on. So we needed a place to be able to, Can't believe it dunking on Chris heroes like that. That's pretty funny. Yeah, we need a place to be able to put it all together. So we put together the tournament bands channel in early January, and that's where it still is today, where we put up all of our current bands. Um, I kind of regret not keeping our previous band like list there, and I was just deleting them as they were no longer relevant with updates. But like, I mean, it makes the channel cleaner. But I really should have kept them because we would have had a better history to reference. But oh well, who cares?
Yeah, we maybe should have added them to the patch notes or something somewhere on the site.
Something like that. Oh well, bye bye history. Um, it was at this point after that we caught Cerebi and Unite Pro and everything copying off of us that after all of this it got even worse with Unite Pro because we now discovered that Unite Pro for the Hoopa release 100% just copied everything that we did.
Descriptions and all. And that was a big feels bad.
Yeah, it was very, very bad. They just completely like 100% just copy pasted our entire Hoopa descriptions because they were very complex. So we already told them like, don't copy exactly what we post. Don't copy our formulas directly. You get to stay in your lane. We'll stay in ours, and we're not going to overlap. And they at this point clearly were just like, okay, they're copying our abilities. They have now like copied our descriptions exactly, and they are now using our RSB functions to create their own like data.
It's also not even that they couldn't copy. It's that if they did, they were supposed to give credit.
And they did.
That's all we asked.
We had this big fight, and eventually they reconciled it by all the way on the footer and a little tiny note saying, "Data from UniteDB." That was how they reconciled it. All the way at the bottom, hidden in the bottom header. It's like, come on. Like ours is like, if you are on the Pokemon page, you can see the header, and there's a hyperlink to Unite API. That's not what they did. That wasn't at all what they had. I want to see if I can find Unite. I think it was UnitePro.com. I don't think there was even a hyphen, was there?
No, it was hyphenated. Yeah.
Was it Unite-Pro.com?
Pro. Yep.
Yeah. So the last time it appeared was the 26th of January 2023 was the last time there was an archive, which I'm pretty sure they did still exist back then. Yep. And all the way at the bottom, you can see little teeny tiny, underneath everything here is data from UniteDB and UnitePA.dev belong to them.
Yeah, I think that was after we
basically had to beat that into them.
Yeah, had a frustrating chat where not nice words were said.
Yep.
About you. Somebody wasn't nice to you.
Yep. It was also really funny because they had featured servers, including TK Pokemon Unite, a server where they completely abandoned any kind of like discussion there. Does TK still have their channel? I don't think they do anymore, right? No, they don't, not anymore. But they did have a channel for Unite Pro because that was them like trying to reach out and be like, hey, we want to be like we want to be Unite DB, but we're paired with the people who Unite DB aren't paired with. So that was them trying to do that. They had oh man, Yomu's, they had Suluwu. The big obvious one was Eevee, who I'm going to now spend this time calling up because Eevee's in this call right now, so I can say it because Eevee can defend himself and because it's funny for me to poke fun at Eevee. But yeah, Eevee at the time, El Chico Eevee, like didn't really play sides. Just kind of like anybody who asked for anything, they would give it because Eevee wanted to be a team player and be on both sides, and whoever wins in the end would be the side that Eevee was helping on the side that won. But that really frustrated us because we helped Eevee quite a bit, and Eevee was like a close partner to us. So the fact that Eevee was giving all the information that was requested to this rival that was trying to take us down was really frustrating for us at the time. Of course, they could do whatever they wanted. Like Eevee can do whatever the hell they want, and we can't really stop them. But that was definitely a
trust broken.
Eevee left, and okay, Eevee left, so I'm not gonna drill into them too hard. But yeah, that was one of those things where like we really did not appreciate when that happened because it just felt like we were just taken from. It was something that we had no way to defend like our intellectual stuff when it was just, oh yeah, we got this information all from Eevee, and we found that it's true. Eevee just gave them all this information, and we had no really way to stop it at that point, right?
Yeah, and the internet is also a wild west where technically this content belongs to the Pokemon Company and not anyone else,
Yeah,
even
so
though there's a weird gray line there where we rewrote stuff. So we, like moves and item descriptions, we rewrote, also added things that they forget to put in the moves. But it's still, there's
there's a
no
very
legal recourse that you can really take.
yeah, we had talked to lawyers at the time to see as to if there was any if we did have
Sure
any
did.
like legal recourse if people were just going to take out all of our information, and the answer was like for the numbers, basically no. For the move descriptions, maybe. If they copy the move descriptions exactly, you can argue that like you wrote this intellectually given your own like given your observations as opposed to
Yep.
not copying what they had directly on the thing. So the way it was written is could technically be our thing. We didn't they also used our coloring, like the purple and dark purple. They use that exact coloring as well against us, and because they were the colors that were part of Pokemon Unite's coloring system, we had no way to stop it. Like it was just ugh, whole mess. But at this point, Hoopa, I believe, was like one
Big
of the
mess.
last few champions that came out that they ended up updating with. Because at this point, we basically just blocked them all out. We completely just like said, we are cutting off communication to you. You guys have been bad faith all the way through, and you were trying to stop us. We are just going to push through anyways. Go fuck yourself.
The content creator that shall not be named also wanted to hop on that other train.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of, you know,
That's the thing. Like all the content creators who had like either mild
karma, I
scandals or
guess.
weren't really established in the community yet, or didn't really like want to deal with the Mathcord, ended up going to Unite Pro so that they had a place to be able to advertise themselves, which made like a kind of us and them kind of clique. And it was it was like a Unite Civil War. I think it's a way to describe it as for
Yep,
what Inter
pretty
saying.
much.
It was like a little civil war where it was, are you on the side of the indie group who's brought us all here and has helped foster the concept of esports by paying like thousands of dollars into esports specifically to help you guys grow, or do you want to talk about the guys who are coming in specifically to rip off of Unite DB and the little guys just to crush them by using a flashier front and trying to appeal to content creators? And it was tight for a while, but eventually they kind of fell off. Fortunately for us, a lot of their creators that they had really wholeheartedly endorsed had a lot of scandals, all kind of around the same time, and it definitely did not help their website because it looked really bad on them when they still had a bunch of these videos of those creators still look up on their website and be able to look back and say, wow, this website clearly endorses all these really shitty people. And it was just kind of true. We were very careful with who we were trying to endorse, of people who clearly, cared about the math of the game and who were, pretty good at maintaining, consistent image. And I don't think we've had any creators that
We
were
definitely
like,
did our best.
yeah,
That is part of the reason, most of the reason, actually, I stepped away from social media.
yeah,
Was pros. We had a short stint where we went to pros to curate our tier list, and it turns out a lot of pros have a lot of scandals and a lot of questionable
yep.
habits, and we had to kick a few and take them off of our endorsements, and some of them went quieter than others. Some of them went very loudly kicking and screaming and made life just not fun.
Yeah, there was for a while we basically had like a little consultation with pros where we would like use pros to determine our tier lists, and then we coming off of that, like it became such a big drama fest, because people who were like dictating our tier lists were seen as like the better people in the community. So that's not really what we wanted, because they were authorities on what was good in their like tier, but for things they didn't really experience very much, they were really bad at making like very objective outside observations of certain things. So we were like, well, yes, I understand why you feel like this certain thing has worked because you're familiar with this kind of gameplay, but when other people who have better experience there than you disagree with you, it becomes very difficult to make an objective assessment of anything. So we kind of took a step back away from taking like high end pros. We kind of just said, let's just take the nerds who are the best at the game and who have the most familiarity with this community, and they should be able to build tier lists consistently. And that's why we have like we have two world champion, basically, analysts, Evo and Lazadin slash Ven, who both are now, like, basically who determine the tier lists. Because
and it's drama free.
yeah, it's relatively drama free, except when they disagree on a tiering, and that's always funny.
No, you're F tier.
No, you're F tier. Yeah, right now I think that, like, the tier list is relatively non-controversial, but if you look on Reddit, everything's controversial on Reddit. So
Oh yeah, I wanted to say that to chat to anybody listening. We have done our best to make the best tier list possible throughout this entirety of the site, and there's still people that aren't happy.
yeah,
But a lot of work has went in over 2 years to make sure that we do our best to get the best democracy set up and solid opinions.
can you guys move Cram up to S tier? Thanks. So okay, so there's this. I really wanted to make the tier list for April Fools. I didn't mention this to anybody, but this is something I was thinking about for this, was changing the tier list to the mons who have their tiers questioned the most, and Cramorant would absolutely be S tier every single time, because no matter what tier we put Cramorant in, we're wrong all the time. Everybody always says Cramorant deserves to be somewhere else. Like, there are people who still swear Cramorant is S tier right now. There are some who swear Cramorant is F tier right now. Like, Cramorant is just this weird fucking, like, abomination who is simultaneously all tiers at once. He's like Quagsire. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what tier he's in. He just is. But yeah, that was the tier list is always a very funky, fun little thing to always look back in. Cram is Cram tier. It's at least 3 tiers above the tiers. Yeah, exactly. You go S is for Scyther, A is for Aegislash, B is for... Are there any ones that begin with B? Buzzwole, there you go. B is for Buzzwole, C is for Cramorant, D is for Decidueye, and I don't think there is... Is there an F? No, there's no F mons. Rip. Well, that joke goes out the window. So yeah. Let's pivot into the next thing. I think somebody posted it just earlier today. So I want to see if I can go find that link. There we go. Yeah, Koharu posted it in general a little bit before. So, oh man, there are so few Pokemon. Holy shit. Oh my god, there's 32 Pokemon? We're at 51 now. We've gained 19 Pokemon since April 1st last year. Holy fuck.
Fun fact, the game launched with 19.
We've gained as many mons in 1 year as the game started off with. Holy cow. Anyways, so...
I think it was supposed to be 20, I think, if I remember correctly, and then they took Blastoise out last minute.
But Blastoise was on release. They took out Wigglytuff out last minute. Yeah. Wigglytuff was removed last minute. And they added her in like a couple months later. So, April Fool's Day last year was very funny. Scyther Cedar wasn't on release. Scyther Caesar wasn't a mon on release. Scyther Caesar was released later. What are you talking about, Evo? Or was Scyther Evo in the past year? Okay. Scyther Caesar are one mon. Yes, you're right. Sorry, because we're as 2 different mons. Yep, that's my bad. So, let's look at these April Fool's jokes, because last year we did a whole rewrite of basically every mon in the...
we were planning on doing it this year, but it's so much work.
So much effort, especially when there's more mons than last year. Because last year we had, 31 mons to do, or 30-something mons to redo. Now we have 50-something mons to do, which is just so much work. So just making a funny patch notes is just good enough. I want to go through a couple of the stars. Most notably, you guys might, people who are currently looking at the patron, they can see what I see on my screen. We deleted Lucario.
Yes, we did.
Which was...
Yeah, Ender did Blissey and Eldegoss.
Let's pull up Blissey. Special thank to Indie Bear for supplying these funnies. And we even provided the little Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter indicator. Let's go through Blissey. Blissey natural cure. So that's why sometimes I walk away from Slowbro. Attack, basic ability. Once in a while, I'll smack you really hard. Pound, Smith versus Rock. Was that over a year ago?
Yes,
oh my god, it was. because they have the Oscars around this. That was March. That was a timely joke.
Yep.
Holy shit, that's now a really obscure joke now. Or well, not obscure, but like it's a really old joke now. Egg Bomb was just wrong to take at the time, so guaranteed to get both your team and enemy team moaning for selecting this move. Because although it was wrong, it was always so annoying to deal with. Like, so yeah, that was just classic. Helping Hand. First time you press this, you will think you still had Pound. Heal Pulse, might as well do nothing. Soft Boil, can I offer you a nice egg in this trying time? Is that It's Always Sunny?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's an It's Always Sunny reference, I think. Safeguard can only be cast on your
Good old
duo queue
Frank.
partner. Classic. Bliss Assistance, if you manage to get this on the right target, you probably won the fight. Yeah. Classic.
Insane move.
Bliss Assistance is just so good. That's just funny. Yeah, we still had the builds were the same, but we just changed the basic
That was
names.
probably my favorite day of the year last year.
It was really funny, yeah.
It was a fun project. Very time consuming.
It was.
So, yeah, go read Pikachu. Pika!
Let's go pull up Pikachu. Yes. Static. Pikachu. Pikachu. Attack. Pika. Thundershock. Chew. Electric Ball. Pika. Thunder. Kachu. Electroweb. Pika. Full Tackle. Pika Pika Pika. Thunderbolt.
Nailed it.
Pikachu. And Thunderstorm. Pika Pika. Classic. Was that when you changed all the pictures to hit Lucario too? Yes. That was that I'm not sure if that was April Fool's or not, but yeah, all of the image hit all of the things hit Lucario, I think, at that time, or we changed a lot of them to do that, which I just think is really funny.
Oh no, you're talking about the screenshots that for each of the moves.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, Timmy does that, or the Pokemon Company. I don't know who's actually in control of that. They do that for literally every one of those from the dawn of time till now.
Yeah, it's really funny. So I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, they hate Lucario, except it was a menace for like a year. It didn't get nerfed or anything.
It's one of those things that seems like it's an inside joke, but just isn't. It's just genuine comedy.
Yeah, it's so ironic. They had Lucario was the strongest for so long, and it is just in every screenshot getting hit by a move.
Yeah. So after April 1st, this was a great time last year, tons of fun. What did we do in the Mathcord for it? Did we just do Unite DB? Did we do anything interesting for April 1st last year?
You did the notification dot as the server icon, I think.
Did I? I don't think I did. I hate that.
I think you changed the server icon to have a little red dot so that it
looks like
so
it's
that
always
everybody,
a ping.
so that somebody thought that there was a ping there and there wasn't a ping.
That's funny. Yeah, I hate that. So if I did that, I'm so sorry.
Oh, did we decide against it? I thought we ended up doing it.
We might have.
I guess we didn't do it.
I can't remember. We might have thought of. I don't have it in my old Discord like my files for Discord. I don't think I have it here. You have Mathcord. Nope, I don't have it here. I just see the Equus icon. Unless somebody else did it, which they might have.
Yeah, Evo said he did it. I thought we actually went through with that. I guess we didn't do anything last year.
It's in your files. Oh, Evo has it. Okay.
I mean, honestly, that rewrite project was time.
I was going to, but
enough.
you said no. Okay, so I was right because I just hate that ping thing. It really bothers me. But
Here we are pinging at everyone to see how many people leave.
Well, it's funny because I wasn't doing it to see how many people left because the answer is not very many. In fact, I don't think anybody left with that last ping.
Yet.
Oh, we lost one person. We lost one person on that last at everyone ping. So yeah, let's move on a bit forward so we can keep going so we can stay under 3 hours because oh god, this is bleeding my wallet already in terms of the episode. For the record, for those who are wondering, the editor gets paid consistently based on duration of the episode, regardless of how many people are on it, as long as there's fewer than 4. So the longer this goes, the more money that Taco gets to rake in. So next. We are going to talk about. Speaking of Mathcast, episode April 23rd was the first episode of the Mathcast. The first ever episode of the Mathcast. Let me go pull up that episode. Yep, that was episode. So the second ever episode, we actually like released on YouTube. The first episode we put on we put on Discord as its own thing, but we didn't have like a public actual like VOD of it. But yeah, episode 2 was April 29th with Spraggles, Ven, and Sanji. That was a real star-studded episode. Once we had an episode already done, this is like clearly showing that we have that we've got like the celebrity to back our episode.
First year was definitely the craziest year.
Yeah.
The second year felt way more smooth.
Second year had a lot more drama that I'm not going into.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of drama that I am not that I'm trying to not talk about, because there are some people that it hurt, and there are some people that and there's like a lot of like repercussions that came out of a lot of the drama, and I would like to avoid talking about specific things that can either harm people by bringing it up, or by or can like help bad people, because there's a for actually I will give one example of the kind of drama I don't want to talk about, just to give you an example, but it's one that like everybody knows about, doesn't really matter. Talking about He Who Shall Not Be Named. There was a content creator that was very controversial, named Verlisify. I don't mind mentioning his name now because nobody gives a shit about him, and he no longer does Pokemon Unite stuff. So when he was in the community, he was a very much I am trying to, I'm going to give controversial opinions about Pokemon Unite just to get as many people interested in me as possible. But he also had a lot of really sketchy and oof things on Twitter. He was just a bad person. Like, he was just a fundamentally bad person we didn't want to affiliate with. We left him in the server simply because he was a creator that hadn't actually done anything really bad within our server, and he hadn't done anything really bad on his Twitter since he joined Pokemon Unite. And we still had this philosophy that, like, even if you're a bad person, if you weren't a bad person on our watch, we're not going to ban you from it. And then he made a bunch of anti-trans statements on Twitter, and then we banned him. So, yeah. Example of things I'm not going to go too deep into, because there were other things where things like that had happened, or worse, that like spending the time just going through every bad person that crossed their way into the Mathcord or into the Reddit cord or into the whole like this side of Unite is a lot of effort, and I think that it would do more harm than good to go through all of them. Make sense? Everybody on the same page? Perfect. So, fuck transphobia, go fuck yourself if you're a transphobe, turfs get out and die, etc., etc. So next, after the Mathcast, we had the Mathcast episode 2 with Spraggles and Ven Lazadin and Sanji. We did an episode a little bit afterward, the Aeos Cup, where we had Inder, Mulian, and again, Ven, because Ven was my co-host. He's still pinned in Math General. Oh, it better fucking not be. Actually?
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay, but yeah, that's a funny pin. I don't mind that pin. It's a "Do you not know how math works" pin, which is really funny because Verlis didn't know how math worked. But yeah, so then we did an episode with Evo about emblems. We did an episode with all of the casters from Worlds on August 31st, where we had Doob Snacks and Zoinks and Spraggles on the cast, as well as Ven Lazadin, and we all talked about Worlds, and that was just a great time. I really loved that episode. It was really, honestly, really solid episode, I think. I kind of want to listen to it at some point again, because it was just so good.
Spraggles wanted to be B tier on the April Fool's tier list last year, but I couldn't let that happen.
We were, yeah.
He's
I know
that's his inside. Yeah. I know that's his inside joke, but he is too good to be B tier.
Yeah, like if we were gonna put him on the list, he had to be S tier. That's for Spraggles.
Or he was S plus. He gets his own tier.
Yeah, exactly. Is that what we did? Is that what we actually did last year?
Yeah. S plus. Nobody else gets S plus. Yeehaw to the content cowboy.
There we go. Okay. Tier list. Yeah, we put Spraggles in S plus tier.
Well deserved.
Absolutely well deserved. I love that. I didn't know that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he DM'd me and he wanted me to put him in B, and I said, "I'm sorry, sir. I cannot do that. I physically cannot do that. You are the shining light in this community."
Spraggles is great. Spraggles is the best, and that is our expressed opinion as the Mathcord, that Spraggles is the best. Period. There's no category there. It's just the best in general of everything. Spraggles is the best.
100%.
yeah, after episode 5 of the Mathcast, we went and did the episode with Smushy Cows and Feppy and Van Lazaren regarding Mew. And then there's other episodes that are hopefully coming up soon. Episode 7 and 8 and 9 are going to be up soon. We're going to have this episode that's now up on YouTube. Hi, YouTube, right? And I'm saying this now because this episode will be up on YouTube by the time that you're watching it on YouTube. So, hi, YouTube. Pink says hi, on YouTube as well. Hi. If you got to this point of the episode, go put in the comments that you got to this part of the episode, and make sure you make sure you don't tell anybody why you're saying hi YouTube or hi Discord or hi Mathcord down in actually yeah, if you see this part, go say hi Mathcord down in the in the comments down below on YouTube, as we'll show a bunch of people here all saying hi YouTube. We've got Pink, we've got Shirokami, we've got
or yeehaw. That's the perfect thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Go either say hi Mathcord or yeehaw in the comments if you get to this point of the episode. That way we know that you're actually listening to it all the way through. I got you there this time. More engagement. So yeah, after we started the Mathcast, we started to make some big discoveries because we gotten all the busy work out of the way, and then there was just like the other things we needed to smooth out, which were things like attack speed. Now, this was basically a project between 2 people. Like, there was only 2 people who basically worked on this the entire time. There was myself and Darts. We were pretty much the only people who actually did attack speed for like 95% of the time. Darts did a lot of the hard, heavy lifting when it came to...
Darts did a lot.
Yeah. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention some fucking rando who helped solve attack speed for us. There was some rando who figured out the formula for attack speed after we'd already published everything. Like we solved it all. It took a really long time. We figured out how attack speed worked and why it all worked, and we got the values out. It was almost perfectly. Hiro Kato, I think, is right. But it was somebody who had no previous establishment in the Mathcord, had said basically nothing beforehand, and basically they asked a question
dropped a bomb.
Yeah, so they asked a question a year earlier that said, hey, does Rotom give increased speed, HP, attack, etc., or did Rotom, after being defeated on his way to the enemy goal, receive increased blah, 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 blah? And then somebody says, does Dragonite get the RC slow? Followed by, hey, I solved attack speed. And they basically just gave us the equations. I'm like, what? Excuse me? Like, he said basically, yeah, he said basically 2 things beforehand, and then came in and said, hey, I've got the equation. And the equation worked, and got all the values, and experimentally, it fit everything. And we checked again and again and again, and all the checks we did, they all worked. And I had to give credit where it was due. Kero Kato, congratulations, thank you very much. You were never a contributor, but you get a very specific shout out for having solved this for a final piece. Yeah, you solved the final piece. What in the shit? So yeah, attack speed was just such a hard thing to come by, because realizing that for some reason. Oh, also, there's a tangent when I go here, but for some reason, everything was done in, like, this weird, like, 4-frame clumps. Yeah, that was a very hard thing to overcome. However, at this point, we now realized, oh my lord, why is everything happening in 4-frame clumps? And the answer is because Pokemon Unite is a 15 hertz game. It's 15 tick. The servers are 15 updates per second. Oh my god. That is why it is. And we did a bunch of other things to try figuring that out. And that is what it is. Pokemon Unite is a 15-tick game. You know how when you play CSGO and it's 64
Makes
tick?
sense now.
Or 128 tick? This is 15 ticks. It updates 15 times a second. That is every 4 frames. So you can have four frames of doing things. And, oh my god, it's awful. It's 1-5. It's not 50. It's 15. It updates once every 4 frames. Because if you were on the Switch, you can do 60 FPS at high quality. You can do 30 FPS at low quality, or 15 FPS at 30 FPS at medium quality, and 15 FPS at low quality. And that 15 FPS low quality is actually what the game is running at. Sad. It is. Okay, so somebody asked, could you give me that in a real life analogy? Sure. Imagine you are doing a big race. You're doing a big sprint race against somebody, and you have to run 100 meters as fast as possible. At the very end, I've got a stopwatch. However, this stopwatch doesn't count in milliseconds. It only counts in intervals of a 15th of a second. Which means, oh no, you and a guy who is a little bit slower than you, I say, are the exact same time. You're like, no, but I finished like just a couple couple milliseconds faster than him. It doesn't matter because on the two stopwatches, it's exactly the same. So Pokemon Unite looks at and updates things every 15th of a second. So every 4 frames, it says, hey, what's the state of the board? And let me update everything and then pull all your information again to do it again. It's a very, very, very bad tick rate. Things should be significantly faster than that. And the fact that it's not is a very bad signal for the game. It's a mobile game, yes, I know, but like, oh my god. That's why a lot of things tend to have these weird like 15th of a second increments because they just work in these 4-frame buckets. Go check out Publishings for the attack speed explanation if you like, because oh man, that is bad. But yeah, we figured it out. We spent a lot of time. We solved the numbers. How's that work for last setting? It works in the way that you would like it to not work, which is sometimes two people can hit it at the exact same time, and we have no idea how the fuck it works when two people hit a thing simultaneously. I have no idea because it's basically impossible to quantify whether two things are at the exact distance away from each other. May as well be a coin flip, or whoever's closest. I don't fucking know.
Pretty crazy.
God, it's so dumb. Oh, wild Pokemon. So we now release a wild Pokemon list of like, hey, here's all of the Pokemon details for Thea Sky Ruins. The game was released on Remote Stadium, which was just a very simple map, and they made a new update and said, hey, we're now introducing this new map, which is like a new revamped version of the original map. Still a very similar kind of shape, but there is a lot of other like new passageways and like new camps and things like that, and people wanted to know values for it, so we gave a big wild Pokemon dump, expecting it to only be around like every once in a while, but it's nope, it is a lot of things. It's basically stayed around ever since last year, August, and I don't expect it to go away anytime soon. I think it's going to stay this way. And as such, I think that makes the wild Pokemon document even more important. You thought there was a summer map coming out? Who knows? It might just be like a like Thea Sky Ruins, but with a summery theme.
Yeah, that could be. They did that with the remote, right? With the winter theme. I would expect if we get a new map, it's going to be after Worlds, just like last year.
Or it'll be before Worlds, but it will just be like a cosmetic thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't. I don't think they would move any new ranked maps in until after that happens.
So yeah, after the wild Pokemon, we had the month of Mathcord, where basically we just did a bunch of Mathcast episodes all in succession. We did like 4 episodes all back to back to back to back. It was good. It was supposed to be 5, but the last 5th episode never unfortunately happened. I was hoping we were going to be able to get to it, but it just didn't end up happening. But it was so dense and fun. I would love to do it again.
That was a fun month.
But we just can't do that consistently. There's too much to do, and I've got a crazy busy life otherwise. Like, I can't keep that consistently. What the fuck?
Same,
but yeah,
unfortunately.
That was fun. However, from August to September to October to November to December, basically nothing happened. Like, it was just like, with the exception of like drama going around in the community, there was like nothing super meaningful that happened in Pokemon Unite to my knowledge. Like, there were some new releases, but there was no like big discovery or anything until January came around, and that's yeah, exactly. Pink, like I said, nothing happened. Pink became a contributor. Exactly, nothing happened.
No, not like this.
Nah, we had a lot of contributors join that time, which I'm very appreciative of. We have a bunch of contributors who I'm all going to give thanks to at the end. But January, we got the EXP and EXP share document, and once we figured out how EXP worked like much more precisely, and we got all the details for it, it was just like a breath of fresh air. People started to like rework all their thoughts on how jungle pathing worked, and
shout out to 1907
yep.
for starting that whole process.
I'm so disappointed that 1907 isn't active in the community anymore, because they were a very, very good creator. They had a handful of YouTube things that were just so good. Let's see if I can find
4 solid, I think like 3 or 4 solid Unite intricacy videos.
Yeah. So like, how do defense and special defense affect damage, equations, and example? Provided a very good, helpful informational video on that. How the hidden bee spawn mechanics worked, how EXP rates and exact EXP amounts for every level worked. That was a little outdated. It wasn't actually quite precise enough. There were some other details that were missing when it came to knockouts and things like that. But yeah, like how Dreadnought works, like all of that, incredibly helpful videos, brilliant. You can go find them at youtube.com/@ W1907 or is it
Actually
1907?
broke out a protractor too, by the way.
Yeah, it was very funny, very solid creator. Shame that they're no longer like as active as they used to be. I would love to have them back so we could help make more things because their videos are just so well edited, so very well explained, very fun. But yeah, after that we have only one more or two more big discoveries, and then that's like everything. We've got the final damage formula, which we published recently, which is our full understanding of exactly how damage reduction, defenses, like damage boosts and all that, like how everything all applies into one like equation. It's a complicated equation, but it is just one thing. We do have a single document that says this works this way. I think it was in formulas, right? Yeah, full formula calculate damage. It's a complicated mess, but I believe that is a perfect universal equation that works for absolutely everything. Things like defense penetration modifier, which is a multiplicative modifier, or a flat penetration, which is like flame charge plus only, move and ability modifier, move ability flat, cares about, there's just a lot of things here. And yeah, everything works. And I believe that when we test everything, oh, I just realized, fucking Abunzu, the Mathcord icon is like squished. It's like horizontally squished. It looks a little silly. I'll go beat him over the side of the head with the paddle at some point for that. Unacceptable. I'm the Mathcord tyrant. Nobody's else allowed to mess with Equus besides me. But yeah, after that, the only last big discovery we had was our most recent discovery, which was the breaking down of movement speed, which although was both simultaneously the hardest and the easiest thing we've done so far. We have
I honestly did not think that day would ever come.
yeah, it was
I thought it was impossible.
well, it's basically impossible for us to make like 100% perfect deductions, but based on what we've had, we have like close enough deductions. Actually, yeah. Do you want to explain as to why Circa?
I honestly don't. It'll melt my brain even just trying to.
Basically, the problem
I
is
hated it.
is an act of objectivity. It's very difficult to objectively quantify position because we know that things work in a very goofy manner. We don't know if there's like if position is like rounded or position comes down to like very very precise values. If you respawn always in the exact same position, if you get bounced to the same position when you use the pads, it's difficult for us to be able to say like how do we start, how do we end, how can we measure move speed in a way that's always consistent and exact. And we couldn't really like determine an exact anything. And because we didn't have an exact objective way of doing movement speed analysis, we had no real way to measure it. As such, we kind of just put it to the back table and said, we'll get there if we can figure out any interesting tools. But we just couldn't find tools that would allow us to do it. It wasn't until we started to actually like crack open the game and we had assist from data miners where we could see the live move speed options in the game, plus some other like helpful like analysis from things like Unite API and from like frame watching videos filmed at 60 FPS to see exactly how Pokemon moved and what the precision of it was in order to provide something that's like close enough to reality. I'm still unconvinced that our publishing is actually like exhaustive, but it is good enough that it's going to provide a true depiction of the truth for most people who aren't massive pedants like myself. And now basically we only have one real thing left to solve, which is tenacity.
Tenacity. I can't wait. It's the last thing.
It's it's basically the last big like mechanical like stat that we don't have a objective answer for yet. Like tenacity is very hard to quantify as
Evo's true. Evo's right. Distance.
Distance is still part of like movement speed and all of that. So ball drop on death. If you wanted to know about when the balls dropped, you should have something puberty joke. Um, um, yeah, like there are like some other small things to uncover, like balls, like how many balls drop, things like small scoring things, but like those aren't nearly as big as like tenacity. Knowing how a primary core stat of the game works, that's I feel is like way more important than basically anything else, right? Yeah, balls are something we're probably going to need to figure out as well, but that's like a small project we can get there soon. That's not going to be a problem.
I honestly thought tenacity would be solved before movement speed.
I thought it was as well, but movement speed. I mean, movement speed is movement speed solved? Kinda. I don't think that we have a perfect enough explanation to say is the difference between 5,000 and 5,001 movement speed. Is that actually going to provide an actual like physical difference? We assume so, yes, but we don't actually know with 100% certainty. It could be like attack speed where there's like buckets and we just don't know about it. So we'll have to figure that out eventually. But that's like a much later. We'll give a shit when it becomes relevant thing. But yeah.
Tenacity has its own set of weirdness that not every rule follows a rule.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. It's that not every rule follows a rule, which is paradoxical, but also true. Um, but now we come to today. We're now caught up to today and talking about the future, right?
I believe so.
So the one thing I've
Powder
missed,
snow, yeah.
there is one more thing. Oh God, okay. Let's talk about powder snow in a second. But I wanted to mention one more thing as well that I didn't mention that was relevant in the Mathcord's history is our Patreon, which if you subscribe to patreon.com/Mathcord, you'd be able to get a custom role, which allows you to get a custom color in our server, if you want. They call fancy little patron color, and on top of that, you also get access to a secret channel for only patrons. Likewise, if you boost our server, you also get a secret channel for just for boosters. But if you're a booster, you get to choose what color you want. You get to choose any color you want that isn't like a special reserved color already. So if you want a special color, you can also be a booster, and we'll appreciate that. On top of that, if you're a patron, you're just supporting the Mathcast. So if you want to go subscribe to patreon.com/Mathcord, you can go support us there, and we would genuinely appreciate being able to get more of your money. Every penny goes straight into our editor's pocket eventually. I'm technically still currently in debt from these episodes. Even with all the Patreon coming through, I'm still a little bit under. I've put more money into the Mathcast than I have received from Patreon yet, but it's catching up. Hopefully, this episode, hell, right now, this episode is going to cost so much fucking money. Oh my God. It's like I'm already like $140 something currently into this episode, so that'll be.
You heard it here. Go to patreon.com/Mathcord. Give MathGeek the highest tier possible to get him out of debt, so we don't have to start a GoFundMe.
If you are a patron, make sure you connect your Discord to your Patreon. You can go into like your Patreon, connect Discord, and then you should be able to get a free. There would be like there's a channel for patrons, and you automatically get like the cool like orange color that Paladin Knight, Serotonin, and Test Runner and Greydon have. I don't think anybody currently in the chat here has it.
I am.
Yeah. Wait, are you? Yeah, but you have the developer role, so you're purple instead. You're more you get something that goes beyond.
Purple's my favorite color, so I want to be purple.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you have to connect Discord to Patreon, and then you get all that set up automatically. Yeah. So, is there anything else you think we should talk about, Circa?
I think that wasn't exhaustive for sure. There was a lot of nitty gritty that we kind of skipped over, but I think that's. The last year was definitely more focused on
research,
solving things, and research. The first year was just a lot more madness in general, just data gathering, drama. In my opinion, I think the first year was more drama filled. Just so much more in that. It was very mentally taxing that first year.
Anybody who's listening to us live right now, if there's another thing that happened in the Mathcord that you think we missed that was very important, please do mention. I'd be glad to. Oh, I just thought of one thing that we've completely missed, Circa, while everybody else is going to fill whatever other things we missed. We completely forgot about the custom Pokemon event.
The custom Pokemon? Oh, the inspiration?
No, yeah. Do you remember when we did the when we had like basically I think it was the Comfy one where we or not a Comfy, it was Wishmaker. We did the Wishmaker event
Yeah, yeah,
where
with Arcanine and
yeah, Arcanine,
uh,
Camerupt,
yep,
Dragapult,
that took
Galvantula,
so
and
much.
Ampharos.
That
That
took so
was
much time.
so much time to even get winners through. And we said, oh yeah, we'll give you guys feedback eventually. And then like months passed, and we're like, we're not going to be able to do this. This was way too much work. Oh my god,
Yeah.
it was so
I
much
think
work.
that's one thing before we wrap up at any point that I would like chat and the rest of the world that's listening to realize that most of the stuff that you get from sites like UniteDB and all of these indie creators comes from a lot of people's hard
Me,
work.
they all come from me, all of it.
A lot of people's hard work that have lives and do things outside of that on top of doing that. So please be kind. It's been a long road, and a lot of people have been involved and spent a lot of time, and they do it for nothing. So be grateful, be thankful, and don't be mean.
Now, I will say, if you would like me to be able to do Pokemon Unite full time, and you say, "Oh man, I wish Matthew could put more time into Pokemon Unite to do more research and to develop the Discord more and all of that," if you subscribe to Patreon, you can start providing me a little bit of extra income. All I need is like if I can get like $5,000 a month from Patreon, then I'd be able to dedicate my entire life full time to yeah, not even that much. I only need like $2,000 a month, really. I could dedicate my entire life full time to this Discord, and I can just quit my current job and just say, let's just do everything Pokemon Unite. I'll go back through the whole archives of everything in the Wishmaker event, and I'll run bigger events if this is my full time, and I'll do more research, and I'll start making videos and shit like that if you guys can get me to enough that I can start affording to not do a 9 to 5. Being able to double the amount of time that I have to be able to work in the Mathcord. Come on, just give me more money. Hashtag give Pro more money.
All that to say, though, yeah, a lot of people do have full time jobs and real lives outside, and I have taken up uh, personally what I feel is a lot of crap thrown since the start of the
Yeah,
site. I know other people have as well. Again, just be kind. A lot of people do this just out of the goodness of their heart and don't even get any money out of it.
and I try to be able to take whatever money we get out of the Patreon. I try to give some of it back to the community, um to our contributors whenever I can. But sometimes like things like this, yeah, it's been 10 minutes worth of patch now. So fuck, man. But yeah, things like this podcast, I've got to pay our editor, and then when things come around, I want to be able to give money back to like, hey, our advisors have been doing a lot of work recently. I want to give them a little bit of money. Like, I am still way more down than I am up from this project ultimately. Even though I've made money from UniteDB, I've made money from Patreon. I'm still ultimately like I'm still putting like hundreds of bucks a year into just this Discord itself just to boost it to get to the degree where now we can get the custom whatever. Like all of that is all things I want to be able to, invest back into the game, but it requires me to have a 9 to 5. So hey, support me on Patreon. Ha ha ha. Nudge nudge. Wink wink. Anyways, um, I will mention the one thing that Shirakami mentioned before, which is oh, powder snow. So Ninetales. Ninetales has the stupidest move that's ever existed in Pokemon Unite. Right now, I don't even know. Does it still work? Circa, do you know if it's still broken?
I don't know, but those are definitely bold words, especially after the Gardevoir teleport
So,
talk. That is the
yeah.
dumbest thing.
So,
It
we've
takes
already
the
talked
cake
about
for
like the
me.
stupidest bugs. There's the Gardevoir bug, incredibly stupid. Very, very dumb. Um, but I can kind of understand why things like that might happen, you know? It's a little bit silly in how you bind something to the wrong value, but like whatever, sure happens. I've also seen things like the Cramorant bug, which is like okay, well you're not probably like disabling an ability like a flag that happens. Now Ninetales Powder Snow, for some reason, I want to try to explain it in a way that's accessible for people. Basically, um, if you ever received a a buff from one of your allies that gives you damage reduction, Powder Snow would permanently deal less damage to you. If an enemy hit you with an ability that would reduce your defenses, Powder Snow would permanently deal more damage to you. On top of that, the more special defense you had, the more damage Powder Snow would deal to you. I think that sounds right. I think those are the 3 big quirks it had. Basically, for a while, Powder Snow was like, oh yeah, for some reason, if you received certain kinds of buffs, it dealt more damage permanently, even when the thing expired, and it would deal less damage if you received other kinds of debuffs. But also, it dealt with like negative special defense. It basically looked like you had like negative special defense, and that's what it applied Powder Snow to. It was incredibly
That
fucking
part I
dumb.
remember.
Yeah, we tried to quantify it, but it was just so complex and convoluted and stupid that we have no idea how it could even possibly work that way. The thing is that at low levels, it doesn't make that big of a difference. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, no, you don't get hit by those abilities at low levels. And Powder Snow doesn't do a lot of damage anyways at low levels. So because you get rid of it after level 4, it's never going to be a problem. But God, is it so dumb for no reason. So it ignores shields. It deals that much damage to wild Pokemon, but deals half the amount to opposing Pokemon, affected by an unusual defense calculation. For humans, the defense is your level 1 special defense minus the special defense minus level 1. So basically, every time you would gain special defense, it actually is like as if you had that much less special defense divided by 2. For AI, but the defense is that times 0.4, which is, before. Basically, you start with your level 1 special defense, then inverting the special defense gained from leveling, and then taking half of that for some fucking reason. It also inverts damage reduction effects and makes them stack. Details were never found. Yeah, this is just all dumb. This was a stupid ability. Did not make sense. Would it be possible to play a 4v5 game that had Vulpix one-shot people at the end fight? Yes, and I theorized that. I actually spent a bit of time planning it and saying, is this actually possible? And I don't have the clip, unfortunately, on me, because I don't think I actually uploaded it anywhere. But I found a clip of basically, if you don't ever, like, level or whatever, like, evolve from Vulpix into Ninetales, and you stay as Powder Snow forever, because you evolve into Ninetales at level 4. So if you can somehow stay out of it forever, you can just walk up to the final fight in the game, and you can just Powder Snow and insta-kill everybody at level 4. It is
Pog.
hilarious. And even funnier is you can do it once, and then now you level up to Ninetales all the way to like level 11 or whatever, and you have higher special attack. However, you still have Powder Snow for a couple seconds, so you can probably use it one more time.
Yeah, you don't have to take the move for like...
for like 8 seconds.
15 seconds?
Or whatever it is, yeah. So you can use the move once or twice more. And it was just so fucking funny. I don't know if that... Yeah, can you try that practice right now? You absolutely could, yeah. I don't have the... I unfortunately don't know if it's still bugged, so you can go check that out later. But yeah, it was a very funny bug, very, very stupid. So yeah,
there's been a lot of them.
I think that's basically
Timmy
everything.
Googlies. Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
So as such, I think
what an episode.
I think that I'm gonna call it here. So this is a big outro tonight because there's a lot of things we need to do. So thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. I appreciate having you all come on. Or, well, I say you all come on. I'm going to start that outro over again because it's only you coming on, Circa. So thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. I appreciate having you on today, Circa. Thank you very much for coming in and joining me. And thank you all for coming in and watching. Once again, thank you to my panelist, Circa. Circa, can you give a little shout out as to where people can find you and the such?
Twitter at unite_db, or unite-db.com, or I am in the Mathcord, although these days my life is pretty crazy, so I'm not as active as I used to be. But I am around daily.
And thank you, everybody. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. This episode was brought to you in part by UniteDB, the foremost authority on the mathematics and formulas hidden within Pokemon Unite. The Mathcord works hand in hand with them to ensure the most up-to-date information is available to you all. We hope you appreciate this resource. Check us out at unite-db.com. That's unite-db.com for formulas, patch notes, tier lists, and a comprehensive mechanics FAQ. This episode was also brought to you by the Mathcord Patreon. Specifically, I'd like to give a shout out to a Heron Turpy, Circa, who's in the call with me, and Jake Sprague, who support us at the Funder tier, as well as all other patrons at our $5 and $15 tiers who help make this podcast a thing. If you'd like to support us or have your name read out at the end of each Mathcast episode, feel free to support us at patreon.com/Mathcord. Furthermore, I'd like to give a shout out to everybody who's ever been a contributor with us before. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm going to go through all of them. Everybody who's ever been a contributor with us. There's Math Geek, Hi, That's Me, Soul Train, Painty Lux, Wayne, Toonstar, Louise, Kutavi, Mao, Mimic, Aeroeris, Sean, H, Common Kitten, Shirokami, Circa, Hi Circa, Mittens, Lazen, Hi Ven, Tyrell, Kairos, Mac Strategist, Tetrika, Murnoga, Nubnub Rum, Eant, Bryant2G, Icarus Twine, Aria, Pyreus, Meridium, Contosus, Yoselok, Fletcherburb, Hito, Flutian, Wick, Nightquack, Iris, Darts, Cleffy, 404, Abunzu, Evocron, Pink X Kiss. Oh my god, I'm gonna go kill myself now. Pink X Kiss. Steve My Cat, Breadbox, Koharu27, Dark Knight, Kyle Fraser 13, Char, and The Wither. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode and have a great one.
Thanks, everyone.